one of those right there. This is so dumb, but I recently discovered the middle click. Like, I didn't know about middle clicking for the longest time. Now I feel like an enlightened warrior. Yeah. What's up, Josiah? You are first. It's great to see you. Hope all is well. All right. Make sure you're double tapping on that screen, sharing it with your friends, doing all that good stuff. If you want to debate this topic, feel free to request to join. What was I going to yap about? I was going to yap about something. I was thinking about yapping about, I don't know, one thing that I've been thinking about, I've been thinking a lot about cosmological arguments as always. And specifically, one aspect of the cosmological argument that I've been thinking about, okay, let me break down. So there's this really interesting interplay. William Lane Craig has the most gerrymandered worldview of all time. It's actually kind of incredible. So, okay, we have like the basic argument. Everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist. Therefore, the universe has a cause. So, an interesting question, interesting things start happening if you ask the question, does God's act of creation begin to exist? If yes, well, then God's act of creation needs a cause, and also God changes. But I think that's probably the more important one. God changes. And then, if no, well, the universe is eternal then. You know, if God's act of creation doesn't begin to exist, if it just always existed, well, it's sufficient for the universe, so then the universe must have always existed. So it's perplexing. We have a bit of a dilemma, and, you know, luckily William Lane Craig finds a way to weasel on out of it. So he accepts the first horn of the dilemma, that God's act of creation does begin to exist and that God does change. But okay, if God changes, then God is in time. That's kind of a problem. But luckily, William has a way on out, you know. So there's like a further dilemma. Either God, okay, if God is in time, then either time is finite or infinite. If time is finite, then God begins to exist. And he doesn't want to say this because then God would require a cause based on his argument up here. His like first premise that everything that begins to exist has a cause. He can't say that time is finite. But then also, if time is infinite, then premise 2 is unmotivated. You know, actual infinities formed by successive addition do exist, actually. And his main motivation for thinking that the universe began to exist is that you can't have like an actual infinity, that you can't just have like this scaling infinite days, right? So then that's like the further dilemma is that, you know, if God changes, he's in time, and a temporal God has two bad options. But luckily, big-brained Bill finds a way. This is what motivates William Lane Craig to hold the view that God exists atemporally without creation, and then when God starts to create, that's when God becomes temporal. He enters into time. I swear, like his entire worldview is built around the Kalam. Like every wacky position that he holds, every like weird bullet that he bites, it's all to avoid a contradiction in the Kalam. That's why his worldview is such a mess, in my opinion. I don't know. I don't know if that made sense to anyone. I don't know if we have any trackers in chat. Let me know. But yeah. Oh, we're talking about William Lane Craig. I've been reading a lot of literature about the Kalam. The act of creation. So, okay, what William Lane Craig wants to say, and kind of what every theist wants to say, is that God has like causal power. God has the power to create the universe, and it doesn't just happen automatically, but rather when God exercises his like power of creation, you know, I'm look at me, I'm like exercising my power of like lifting my phone up and down. You know, ooh, I'm exercising my power of like spinning the pen. And likewise, when God activates his or exercises his power of creation, that's when creation begins to exist. That's the act of creation. It's like the action taken to create. So, you know, either he's always exercising this power or he begins to exercise this power at some point. Well, you know, if he's always exercising the power, then the universe just always exists. And if he begins to exercise it at some point, well, then it would need a cause, you know. And also, like I said earlier, God changes at that point. That's kind of the problem. Anyway, if you think that if you're in that guest request box, if you want to debate the topic, if you think that God does exist, feel free to request to join. You got to be 18 or older. You got to believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. I also ask that you have some sort of reason to believe in God, you know, just for the sake of clarity and whatnot. You know, the first guest is always a troll, so let's get it out of the way. Okay. It went painlessly. It was super easy. It was so sad. Am I pro-choice? Yeah, I'm pro-choice. I'm like basically, yeah. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, and I slapped the shit out you, bro.
How old are
I
you?
beat the shit out you, bro.
Aw, that
Can you
makes me
fight?
sad. You know, if you beat the shit out of me, I'd get pretty upset. Or
Yeah.
maybe I wouldn't. Maybe it
Maybe I'll
would
fix that
be like
long ass
an
nose of yours, bro. You got a
incredible
fucking yam
reason for
nose.
me
God
to lock the
damn.
fuck in. You know, maybe I'd go in my gym
Your
arc.
ears are
You
red
know,
as fuck too. You getting
I'd start
mad. Fucking
lifting.
steam
My
about to blow
ears
off
were
your
red as
fucking
fuck
ears.
before. I think you're a bit confused.
I'm about to beat your ass,
Are you
bro.
sure?
I ain't
Are
gonna
you like
lie.
short
Send your
circuiting? You
location,
already
bro. I
said that
slapped the shit
one.
out you, bro.
Why
And
would I
everyone
send
in
you
the
my
chat, dog,
location?
stop blowing my cover,
Whoa.
all right? Stop
Whoa.
blowing my cover.
Okay. Sounds good, dude. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, good. Ian, how are you?
There's like an echo in the background.
In the sense that his teams
I'm sorry.
always seem to be playing.
If you want to come back up after you like turn the TV off or something, you're welcome to. In fact, I have nobody else requesting to join, so I would absolutely love to have a discussion with you. Damn. He does the same thing on other lives? I mean, yeah, it's like I wonder I do like wonder something, which is like intuitively, you know, I don't get trolls that stick around for very long, and I wonder if that's what explains the fact that all the trolls that I get are at like the beginning of the live is because they don't have the patience to wait through like multiple guests. Oop, that's not good. What the fuck? Oop, why the fuck is my shit freezing? That's not good. Shouldn't be doing that. Hello? Wait, can you hear me? Yeah. Hold on. Let me go ahead and pull up a task manager. What the fuck? Oh, I mean, I guess that makes sense, huh? Well, that's just what you get, I suppose. Maybe I'll exit out of that, and then I will go over there. That's fine. This actually seems fine. Okay. Do I have the VPN on? I don't think so. I do have the VPN on. Okay. I'll be back in just a sec. What's up? I'm back. Okay, I've returned. All right. Let me okay, if you're in that guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. You can also be a deist. That would be fine too. Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, it was good, bro.
Yeah, how old are you?
I'm 21.
Yep, and what religion?
I'm Muslim, bro.
What makes you think that God exists?
It's because the Quran, bro, the book, I think it's real, bro.
Okay, I agree.
I think it's
The
the word of
Quran, the
God.
book, is real. Why would I think that Quran, the book, is the word of God?
It's because it's like there's no mistakes in it.
Okay, I mean, if there were no mistakes in Spider-Man, would that make Spider-Man real?
But Quran was thousands of years ago.
Okay, if there were no mistakes in the Odyssey, would that make the Odyssey real?
Yeah, I think so.
I take that as a reductio, that you think a really well written work of fiction would be real.
Yeah, no, it's like you know the Bible.
Yeah, I do know the
Right.
Bible.
It has like a lot of mistakes. That's why like it cannot be real because it has a lot of mistakes.
You
But
know,
Quran, for years it has no mistake. You know what I mean? It hasn't changed the word.
yeah, I
That's how you
mean,
know
the
it's the
same
words
thing
of
is
God.
more or less true about the Quran. Like, for example, it says that the earth is older than the sun, when in fact that's just false. It says the
How do
earth
you
is
know it's
older than
false?
like all of the stars.
The earth is older than all of the stars.
Yeah, that's what the Quran says.
Where does it say that?
Sure, I can pull up the verse for you. I think it's 41, 9 through 12. Okay. Ask them, O prophet, how can you disbelieve in the one who created the earth in 2 days? And how can you set up equals with him that is Lord of all worlds? He placed on the earth firm mountains, standing high, showered his blessings upon it, and ordained all its means of sustenance, totaling 4 days exactly. Then he turned towards the heavens while it was still like smoke, saying to it and to the earth, submit willingly or unwillingly. They both responded, we submit willingly. So he formed the heaven into 7 heavens in 2 days, assigning to each its mandate. And we adorned the lowest heaven with stars like lamps for beauty and for protection. So the order of events is that God creates the earth, and then he turns towards like the rest of the galaxy, and then he creates the stars. So earth, then stars, but that's definitely false. There are some stars that couldn't possibly have been created at that time. Otherwise their light wouldn't have reached us.
Yeah, true. But so in Islam, you cannot believe the Big Bang theory.
Hmm.
You cannot believe in it. Do you believe in it?
Yeah.
How do you know it's real?
Yeah, based on the cosmic microwave background radiation. So we have radiation that's like uniform across the universe, and you can trace back the radiation to orange light 13.8 billion years ago. So that's radiation emitted by the very first light that ever existed, at least in this iteration of the universe.
But hold on. How is Big Bang gonna happen when there was nothing? Because there was nothing before Big Bang.
Why would we
Nothing.
think that there's nothing before the Big Bang? There could have just been more universe.
No, the universe is created by the Big Bang.
Nope, that's incorrect. The Big Bang is just a hypothesis that states that the universe was in a hot, dense state and then it rapidly expanded.
So, alright, bro. Alright, you got it, bro.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you.
Alright, bye.
Make sure you're double tapping on that screen, sharing it with your friends, and all the good stuff. Gotta respect a humble king. Didn't sound like he was seething at all. Oh no. Wait, did I? Oh no. Oh, okay, wait. Sure. Sorry, I'm reacting to things that only I can see. Gosh, golly. Oh, what was I looking for? That's what I was looking for. I was looking for the chart that Molly sent me. Okay. But hey, if you're in that guest request box, if you want to debate this topic, make sure that you're 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. I'm also open to debating a deist. You just need to think that there's like an ultimate being who is a mind, like an ultimate person. That's what God is. Let me go ahead and swap out my Big Bang survey. I'm going to swap that one for this one. Hell yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's like fine. That's pretty good even. Okay, let's go to the very next guest. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Ian. How are you, man?
Doing well. How old are you?
I am 40.
Yep. And what religion?
I'm Christian, but I'm a Christian.
Mhm.
And we'll say it that way.
Yeah. What makes you think that God exists?
Well, I think I have as much. I think I have as much evidence that God exists than you have that God doesn't exist, right?
Like what? What sort of evidence you got?
Well, what evidence do you have that God doesn't exist? Because it's at this point right now, you and I both are monkeys on this world, right?
I don't think that's true.
Well, you're just coming across as some sort of enlightened scientific person that understands everything when we literally know nothing.
I mean, I agree that there's like tons of things that I don't know. I don't really know if you want me to respond to the fact that you think that I sound very intelligent. I mean, maybe I'll take it as a compliment, thank you. But I think we have good reason to think that there isn't a God. For example, if God is all good, the fact that things like malaria exist and earthquakes exist and cancer exists, these things are really startling. They're quite surprising. It's the sort of thing that we would expect an all good God to take care of if one existed.
Well, you are under the assumption that a God that exists is all perfect, which he is, but at the same time, you live under the laws of nature of everything that somebody created or nothing created. So the irony is we still see a little bit of good and a little bit of bad. So for some reason, though, you just think that. Listen, you have no explanation for the causality of how we became.
So to be clear, before we like totally pivot away, do you have any response at all that you want to give? Like any sort of explanation that you even want to like try out as to why cancer exists or earthquakes exist? Or are you just like straight seeding it?
No.
Okay.
I can explain. I mean, you don't have kids, right?
I don't have kids.
Okay. When you have a kid, do you just dictate everything that they need to do?
I would assume not.
Okay. I have a son. He's 13. I don't dictate everything that he needs to do. I give him his ability to make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
That's the loving thing, though, right?
But whose decision is it to get cancer?
Well, no, but you have to understand. We had this conversation probably about a week ago about dinosaurs having cancer and all that kind of stuff,
Damn.
which I enjoyed.
Okay.
But listen,
It sounds like we're about to end up there again very soon.
Well, no, I mean, what you want then is to say that if there is perfection in God, mankind needs to be perfect.
No, just that the fact that cancer exists is very unexpected. That the way that we evaluate evidence is by asking what would we expect given some hypothesis. So for example, let's say you and I are traveling to a kingdom and we know that the king there he's wise and he's just and he's powerful. But then as we enter into the kingdom, we see the bodies of men, women, and children hanging from lampposts. Well, we might stop and reflect. Well, maybe the king just doesn't know about it. But if he doesn't know about it, then he's not as wise as we thought. Or maybe he does know about it, but he doesn't have the power to stop it. In which case, maybe he's not as powerful as we once thought. Or maybe he does know about it and can stop it and just chooses not to. In which case, maybe he's not as good as we once thought. Maybe there's like some injustice in him after all. But regardless, we would come away with the impression that there isn't a just, wise, powerful king who's sovereign over this kingdom. And likewise, I mean, we look to things like cancer and come to the conclusion that there isn't an all good, omnibenevolent God who's all powerful and all knowing, ruling
Well,
over.
so that's a great hypothesis, right? So you want me to hypothesize about a God that you don't believe in, which is probably not going to get us anywhere. But I can tell you this: you don't want to talk about the evil, right? You only want to talk about God. Is there not something that's nefarious and an evil thing that happens, and a different entity that might be evil? I
There
don't
totally
hear
could
anything
be.
about that.
There totally could be. Unfortunately, in the Bible, it says that God's the creator of all things in like multiple places. So it kind of sounds like you're pretty locked into saying that God's the creator of cancer.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I think what I'm saying, I appreciate you putting that words in my mouth, but what I'm actually saying is this, okay? I don't have an explanation. I'm not trying to convert you, okay? You spend a lot of time trying to make sure people don't believe in God, right?
I mean, yeah, I like debating the truth.
Okay, the truth as you know it, and that's okay. Like, listen, I'm not trying to sit here. All I'm trying to do is give you a little bit of an alternate. This is why we're here, right? Just to have this conversation.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that there might be an entity out there that is greater than us. The problem is you are not in the position to understand anything because you've not created the stars and the heavens and the Big Bang Theory and science. The science has not even scratched the surface of what we understand.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
totally agree.
why are you then becoming somebody that is going to preach about your non-belief?
Yeah, because we can rule out certain possibilities, you know. When we're thinking about how we all got here, when we're thinking about, well, what makes the laws of nature function the way we do, we can start ruling out specific outcomes that it might be. You know, maybe it's this all powerful, all good, all knowing God, but then, you know, at that point, that can't
But
explain the evil in the world. So we can rule this one out. And then we
but
can turn
even
to the other possibilities. And also, I mean,
e-
just to stick with the point, you said that you don't think that God's the creator of all things. If that's true, then you have to reject Colossians, where in Colossians 1:16 it says, "For in him all things in heaven and on earth were created, things visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or powers, all things have been created through him and for him." Revelation 4:11, "You are worthy, our Lord and God, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and by your will they existed and were created." And then we got John 1:3, "All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being?" So
okay,
it
well,
just seems like
first
pretty
off,
clear, like it's saying like God created everything. Maybe you reject
well,
John 1:3 and Revelation 4:11 and Colossians 1:16.
well, I think there might be a misunderstanding there because I did not say that. I'm actually saying I'm trying to figure out why you think there's not a God, right?
Mhm.
But you'll use my word against me, the word of God, right? Or at least my Bible. I won't say
Yeah.
the word of God. Okay. You don't believe there's a God, but for some reason, you spend a lot of time.
Mhm. Yeah, it's because there can't be like an all good God that's the creator of all the cancer.
Okay. Well, that is without a doubt one of the greatest arguments that's always been taken. Like, so guess what? Cancer. Okay, so far we're good. We understand God created supposedly cancer.
Mhm.
Okay. How about rape, murder? Did God create those?
Seems like a pivot. Presumably the
Oh,
theist wants to
why was there a
say,
pivot?
whoa, yeah, presumably the
You
theist
get
wants
to
to
choose.
say that these things
You
are a
get to
product
choose
of
the
free
bad
will.
things.
Yeah,
You get to
yeah, I
choose the
do.
bad
Yeah, it's
things.
my argument. So yeah, the bad things
Okay.
is cancer is the one that I'm focusing on. Like the natural
So cancer,
evils.
the natural evils, cancer, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, this has been a great. I
It kind of sounds like you
listen.
don't really have a response. I could be wrong.
You haven't responded to anything that I've said. All that you've done is pull up your notes, which I love.
Mhm.
This is kind of almost like a disingenuous kind of argument or like a debate because you have your things, and then I'm here freeballing it on TikTok,
My notes,
and
like the
that's
Bible?
disingenuous. What's it? Yeah, you whatever you want to pull because you don't believe in the
Oh,
Bible, but
my
at the
bad.
same time,
Sure. Then I,
so
it's
guess
my bad
what?
for citing the Bible.
Oh no, my bad for trying to have you give me evidence of God not existing because you're a scientific person that knows everything.
I'd never made the claim that I know everything,
Well,
nor
you
that
know
science
one
knows
thing.
everything.
You know one thing, God
Yeah,
doesn't exist, right?
correct. Yeah.
Okay, because of what? Science?
Because of the contradiction that would exist if there's this all good God that's the creator of cancer.
God is not all good. What are you talking
You
about?
don't want to
It's
do that one.
mankind that's not
Okay.
good. No, mankind is not good. Do you understand that God can be good, but mankind, like a child, is going to do what they want to do? See, that's the thing.
Wait, so
You
God
want
is all good or
perfection.
he's not? Also, it does say
What?
God's perfect.
God is perfect, but he gives us free will. And I know that that's something that's not scientifically going to be proven. So all you're trying to tell me and all you're trying to tell us, and you're spending a lot of time and making money on it, okay? Because I'm not making money. You're making money right now.
Okay.
All you're trying to do is prove
If you
that
were at
God
work
doesn't
doing this,
exist
you could make
because of
some money.
science. I apologize. What again? I
Oh,
don't know.
nothing. Sorry.
All you're trying to do is prove that God doesn't exist through science. Yet the thing that I said is you have no clue about what science is yet because we don't understand everything.
It's not really my
But for some
claim.
reason, you're egotistical enough to think you know it all.
Okay. I don't know why you're insulting me. I don't know. I just wouldn't be throwing around insults like that if I were on like the verge
What
of tears.
what
But
was the
how about I
insult?
can read you some? Well, you said I was egotistical.
Well, it's a little egotistical. You're actually right now trying to tell people that God doesn't exist. That's
Yeah.
kind of egotistical. I'm not
Why is that
on TikTok right
egotistical?
now. I'm not on TikTok right now telling people you better. I'm not on the street corner saying you better believe in Jesus. You're going to burn in hell.
I mean, I think if
So
your worldview is true, that would be the thing that makes the most sense to do.
I'm not going to
But
do
I think
that.
your worldview is false. I don't know. I
Well,
mean,
I
that
think
seems like
your
an
worldview is
inconsistency on
false,
your
but
part.
no, I mean we're having a conversation.
hmm But
But for some reason, you want to belittle me.
okay, well, I mean, you're literally belittling me, right? You just said I was like egotistical, but that's okay. We can totally move past that. You said that you don't think that God's all good, or do you think that God's all good?
You're egotistical because you think God is
Oh,
nothing.
oh, you don't want the substantive discussion, it seems.
I don't think that that's the concept. I think what I'm trying to say is I've seen you on YouTube. I've watched you. I watch your TikTok, and I appreciate the fact that you're having a job doing this. But this is what happens. I'm here as your product, and you're not proving anything to me.
Oh, I mean, I can, if you really want, I could make this like pretty clear. Um,
God doesn't exist. Congratulations.
okay, wait, let me do it like this. So, if the Bible is true,
You're going to
then
this
God is
again.
all good,
You
and
did this. You
God
did
is
this
the
last time,
creator
bro. It's
of
so. You
everything.
did this last time.
If God is all good, then everything he creates is good.
Who said God? Listen, God creates good. He allows people to choose good. How about that?
Creates is good. I don't know. Cancer is one of the
God,
things. Therefore, seems to commit you to the conclusion that cancer is good.
you seem to think that life has no conclusion after death, and that's the thing that I'll never be able to tell you because all you want to know is if you get cancer and you die, then you're done,
hmm
right?
Yeah.
But there might be an afterlife, right? That's the thing you get hung up on.
Oh, I don't think we have any evidence of that. Certainly, we
I
have good
know.
reason to think that the Bible is false.
Well, goodness gracious.
I have these like
Listen,
three premises in front of us. Presumably you want to avoid the conclusion that cancer is good. But in order to avoid that, you would either need to disagree that if the Bible is true, then God is all good and God's the creator of everything. That, if God is all good, then everything he creates is good. Or that cancer is one of the things.
goodness gracious, you did this the last time we talked. It's kind of sad because it feels like you have to like pivot to this.
Pivot to
So let me
logic.
ask you this
Pivot to the
question.
logic that disproves God. After you
Let me
asked
ask
me
you
to
a question.
disprove God, you asked me go ahead and disprove God, and then I formalize it in like a syllogism. And you think that's running?
I'll do a syllogism. You ready?
Okay.
You have a
Wait.
mom and-
Let me get ready. Let me get ready. Sure. Yeah. What is it?
Do you have a mom and dad?
Premise 1: do you have a mom and dad? Yeah, I have a mom and dad.
How were you created?
Premise 2: how were you created? Well, I mean, I have a mom and a dad, if that's what you're asking.
Premise 3: are you the result of every single decision your mom and dad did?
Of every single decision your mom and dad did? No, only
And
some
then
of them.
premise 4 is: are they not perfect? Or are they perfect?
Are they not, or are they perfect? Okay.
Yeah.
I can go through.
Did they cause you
yes,
pain and hurt?
Mom and dad. Are you a result of every single decision? No, not all of them. Are they perfect? No, they're not perfect. And do you have a fifth premise?
The closest you come to God in terms of your definition is a parent.
Closest we could come to God in your definition is a parent. Well, I mean, that's kind of strange because parents aren't perfect. Also, I don't think a parent who lets their kid die of cancer or indeed creates the tumor that their child had could possibly qualify as an all good parent.
Okay, you keep going to cancer and tumors. Can I just make a suggestion?
Why?
Okay.
What's wrong with that?
Because that's the thing you go to. It's like, okay, then let's talk about Down syndrome. Let's talk about every absolute horrible thing in this world as it relates to the body. So what you're saying is, if God doesn't
That's
exist,
kind of strange.
he needs to meet me in my way because I need perfection, because heaven needs to be here.
God is perfect, I
Because
thought.
you don't. But you think God needs to be perfect on your terms in the world.
He's not some deadbeat
don't-
dad. He's God. He's infinitely powerful, infinitely knowing, perfectly rational, all good. We should
Well-
have high expectations for a God like this. So the fact that people die of cancer at the age of 6 should really make us lower our credence that God exists.
Well, but here's the thing. You have no belief or hope that there's anything that exists after this life, right?
I have no belief. I don't know. I try not to base what I believe on hope. It would be
Well,
really
you
cool.
would. You
If
would,
I
because
kept
guess
on
what?
existing after I died, that would be really cool. But I don't think that something being really cool gives me a reason to believe it.
So basically, your hang up is the fact that because Earth is not perfect, God doesn't exist. However, everything that we have, which is like 1% of understanding in science, is, I'm going to go off the 1% because I didn't get my way like a little baby.
I don't think I've made a single scientific argument this entire debate.
No, well, you have. That's your premise.
What's the scientific claim that I've made during this debate?
Well, okay, we'll
It's
have to
kinda brutal.
reverse it. Well, you've not made one.
You're
Listen,
kind of straw manning
you will-
me. Right.
you
I've
will
given
lose,
nothing but philosophical
credibility when I
arguments.
pull this back up, because you'll lose credibility because
Which
you
one?
literally said that science, you've talked about the universe and everything that we don't understand it, but you acknowledge it. That's science, right?
Wait, which part of it? Like, what's the specific claim?
Well, you tell me. You're saying you never said anything about science?
I've said things about science on occasion, not in this conversation, at least as far as I remember. I don't think I've made scientific claims here.
Pretty sure you did, but that's okay.
No, I think
I'm
the
not
only
even
claims
trying
that
to
I've
be-
made are philosophical, and then I've read your own Bible to you.
So philosophical is what we're going to go off of then. That's your science.
Logic. Yeah.
Logic is your science.
Yeah, I come to my conclusions about whether or not God exists based on logic.
Well, then that means you're God, and that's okay.
You think using logic to arrive at beliefs makes you God? Do you not use logic to arrive at your beliefs?
Hey, sir, logic has been used in Nazi Germany Pol Pot's China. So if you want to go
What
ahead
arguments
and
did they make?
what arguments would they make? The ends justify the means.
Okay, well, I think that's like a nonsense principle, pretty obviously.
How? What? That's logic. What
Yeah,
are you
for
talking about?
example, you end up in situations where you'd have to violate people's rights, which leads to contradictions.
But
So it would actually be illogical.
No, that's not true. And
You
you're
don't
trying
think
to.
contradictions are illogical?
Well, then how has the human society not been perfect then? If logic just is so relevant and
Because
is
they
so
don't listen to
available to all,
logic.
what's logic?
Yeah, I take logic to be something like the rules that govern valid inferences. So if we have like some beliefs that we hold, there are going to be some further beliefs that follow from them. And if we arrive at a contradiction, that means that one of the things that we believe must be false.
Listen, you have to understand something. Not everybody sees the world the way you see it, okay?
They
And
should.
unfortunately, well, they should, right? They
Starting
should.
with you.
I'm not. Listen, when I see you, if I ever met you, I'd love to shake your hand, give you a hug,
Mhm.
and take you out to lunch. Okay?
Sure.
That's my logic.
That sounds
I don't have a
pleasant.
problem. It is. Dude, I like this type of stuff. But you're operating in a vacuum, dude. You're thinking that everybody's morals are the same.
I didn't claim that. That's not my claim.
Well,
It's
you're
just that
saying
some people's
logic
morals
isn't.
are wrong.
No, you're saying logic is absolute.
Oh, true,
And that
it
everybody
is.
should understand how your logic works because it is logic for everyone.
It's not my logic. Logic isn't relative, it's objective. You know, I know Christians are like moral relativists and like moral subjectivists. I didn't realize that they were also like logical subjectivists. Like, I
Hey,
think logic is an objective part of reality. I think that that's how we should be arriving at our conclusions. If you don't like logic, then you should probably stop making arguments.
hey, Ian,
Yeah.
show me a good Christian. I'll show you a hypocrite.
Okay.
Okay? We're not perfect, dude. Okay? We're not perfect. And it's unfortunate, but when a Christian does something bad, it's like blood in the water for the sharks. We're not perfect, dude.
How does that in any way, shape, or form interact with what I just said?
Because you're talking about your logic.
I'm just talking
You're
about
talking
logic.
about your standards,
Just
right?
logic. I think you're confused. I think you think logic is something like your thoughts. No, logic is what governs valid inference. So if you start with true premises, logic is the thing that further necessitates the conclusion. So if we know that all men are mortal and we know that Socrates is a man, well, logic tells us that Socrates must be mortal. That's what logic is. Logic isn't just like vaguely gesturing at like the way we think.
Well, so guess what? Okay, my God causes cancer. Apparently, your logic allows slavery, rape, and other things amongst the world. So I'm trying to figure out who are you serving? Your ideals, because there's majority of the world does not submit to your logic, right?
You think the majority of the world think that contradictions are fine? Like, for example, you think the majority of the world thinks that the sky could both be blue and not be blue simultaneously?
Okay, that is that's weak for you. You need to
That's what
step it up a
logic
little
is.
bit.
That's the
That's a
example
very
of the
weak
law of
thing. No,
non-contradiction.
no.
Or like that there's like
Okay.
a square that
Oh,
isn't a
so we're
square.
gonna
Like
go
this is
from
the
rape
logic that
and
I'm
we're
talking
gonna go
about.
from rape and murder to colors. That's without a doubt
It's not
like a
logic that
pass.
causes rape and murder. It's illogic.
Well, but you're saying that people should submit to logic,
They
like
should.
logical
Absolutely
conclusions,
true. Yeah, they should. People should be
but they
more
don't.
logical reasoners. I'm sorry.
But they
I'm a bit
don't.
surprised that you have such a problem with logic. I mean, is that what it takes to be a Christian? You have to be illogical?
The first thing that I said was rape and murder in terms of what you think and how the world responds to it. And I said that rape and murder happen
Mhm.
because of your logic.
Oh, I
And then
disagree.
you went to go to colors. It's like saying, okay,
That's also
well,
not the trajectory of the conversation. What actually happened is that you said the majority of people disagree with your logic, but the logic that I accept is just that contradictions are false. You know, either something is true or it's not, and that a thing must be itself. So if you're saying that that's the logic that the majority of the world disagrees with, then you're telling me that you think that there are people who think that, or that the majority of the world thinks that, you know, the sky can both be blue and not blue simultaneously.
That's well, you know what you're saying then basically is that we don't live in a binary world, right? There's no ones and zeros.
Depends on what we're speaking of. There are some binaries.
Well, no, for you, it's not.
Like,
I mean,
for example, either God exists or he doesn't. That's a binary.
Well, that's fine. So that's for you a binary. For other people, it's not. But
disagree?
That's the thing you're arguing.
You don't agree with that?
No. Well, I do, but for you, you don't, because you want evidence that God exists.
I do agree that either God exists or doesn't exist.
Well, in order to have a 1 or a 0, you already have to have the conclusion of how it was calculated, and you have that conclusion. And all you're doing, your entire premise is to be here to say God isn't real.
Yep, that is the position I'm defending because I think it's true.
That's binary.
Yeah. I agree. There are some binaries, right? There are some. I know you don't like truth, but there are some things that are true. And if it's true, then the opposite of it, in this case, that God does exist, is false. That's how logic works.
You made a conclusion. So you are a 1 or a 0, probably 0 because God doesn't exist, so 0. I'm a 1. And guess what? We both used the same kind of human intuition that we have. We used our brains, our experiences, but for some reason you want to discount anybody that appreciates or even thinks there's a God, and that's fine.
I want them to present their evidence.
The evidence you need will never be presented through.
You said that you had just as good of evidence as I did, and then I presented my evidence to you, and you have no evidence, it seems.
Your evidence is what? Science?
No. The fact that your book commits you to saying that cancer is good. But cancer is not good. It's bad.
Okay. Nobody has ever said cancer is good, and I want you to
Then you need to reject a premise. You either need to disagree that if the Bible is true, then God is all good and God's the creator of everything. That if God is all good, then everything he creates is good. And
okay, here's the premise. Okay, so you want to use that as an example. So
do you disagree with premise 1, 2, or 3?
Excuse me, Jesus Christ,
who I believe was.
I'm not dodging.
I just want you to tell me if you disagree with premise 1, 2, or 3.
I know you want it to be, again, binary, ones and zeros. Let's see here. If the Bible is true, then God is all good. If God is all good, then everything he creates is good. That's not the case.
You think
premise
all
2
good
is
God
just
can do bad?
Premise 2 is the same concept that I said about your mother and your father. Okay? He loves us enough to give us the opportunity to decide.
On what?
He doesn't love us enough he doesn't love us enough to make us perfect and enslaved. He allows us free will.
Why would we be enslaved or not have free will if we didn't die of cancer?
You have a problem with cancer, bro.
Why can't you answer?
Because you want me to justify why cancer happens.
Yes. You believe in an all-good God. Are you asking me on my worldview? Because there isn't an all-good God. Because things like this, things like human miscalculation due to like cognitive biases are going to be common. That humans operate on the basis of like all sorts of heuristics that are imperfect.
Listen, I have to get off of here, but it's like I'm talking to my child who wants to know why he doesn't get his way. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way, bro. It doesn't work that way. You don't get everything you want, okay?
Certainly, I don't get like a logical explanation or evidence for God's existence.
That's fine. You know what? And that's okay. I mean, I hope you cast some like payroll checks today for this conversation, but I can't help you. If you
it seems like I'm casting is pearls before swine. Jesus cooked with that one.
No, that's not even true at all. Goodness gracious. I love you, dude, honestly. And I'm not going to probably be the guy that breaks your heart and says, okay, you know, but listen, I've come here just to like kind of give a little bit of an understanding of like where I come from. And, you know, I'm not disrespecting you, but at the same time, you just want science and facts.
I've told you, well, I do want facts. I've never asked you for any science.
Okay. Well,
I think that if
science and
you
facts.
engaged with atheists on their own terms, instead of trying to like straw man your opposition, I think that the conversations might go better for you. You know, if
I
instead
think you don't need
I-
to speak down to me. I actually look down upon you because I think you're a
Okay.
very weak person. So
I don't think you should do that.
congratulations,
I
though,
think
but-
that makes you like doubly stupid. Like you're already stupid based on the debate performance, and then you're telling me that you look down on me. That's even more
I do.
embarrassing.
I do, because you actually, let's go roll the tape back, and you asked me about science and facts.
Which
And if you
piece of
didn't say
science did I
that-
ask you about?
Well, you can't remember, but I understand 100% that
I don't think
did
I
talk
asked you about any piece of science.
Okay, then. Well, I guess you didn't, and I guess that makes you, because you're so condescending and talk like this, that makes everything that you
You're about
say
to cry?
correct. No, not at all. I'm actually just mimicking you, dude.
Oh, I don't think so.
Oh,
I think that your voice would need to get a bit more like monotone and like a bit less shrill if you wanted to mock me.
how
Right
how
now
about
it's at like
this?
it's very
How
like
about like
scratchy and
this?
very like zigzagged.
John
I think my voice is like
Malkovich.
a bit more
No.
smooth than that, maybe.
This has been fun, though, right?
Yeah, I had a
This
great
is-
time.
This has been great.
Yeah, it was like very productive. I thought, you know, we learned a bit
I
about
have to go
logic
away
and we learned a
now.
bit about, you know, argumentation. You know, hopefully you'll consider these things the next time you try to debate an atheist. You know, some atheists are
Okay.
going to make arguments on the basis of like philosophy. You know, the single most common argument for atheism is something called the problem of evil, which doesn't necessarily draw on any science at all.
So, which means that you want to have a God that's all good, and you don't need to have responsibility for your actions. And I get that.
Who's responsible? You think the 6-year-old who dies of cancer is responsible for cancer?
Oh my gosh, dude, you are seriously like, it's a
I've
Christmas
only been
ornament. I'm
talking
gonna get
about cancer
I'm gonna
here.
get a
You've been
Christmas
strawmanning
ornament
me.
because I'm not strawmanning. That is
Yeah,
your straw
I didn't
man,
say
bro.
that people aren't responsible for their actions.
No,
I'm talking about
you
cancer.
literally, every single time we talk about the goodness of God or the ability for Him to be something good, what about cancer?
True.
What
Banger.
about cancer?
It's a really
That's
good
your
question.
straw man, bro. It's like,
not a
okay,
straw
cancer.
man.
Okay, it's a straw man.
How can I
That's the
straw man my
or-
own argument? The cancer argument's my argument. You saying I'm straw manning myself?
Dude, you are without a doubt. Do you even understand what the concept of straw manning is?
Yeah, it's when you misrepresent the argument that your opponent is making such that it becomes an easier argument to respond to, as opposed to steel manning your opponent, which is representing your opponent's argument as strongly as you can.
Well, you're straw manning it because having cancer in the world is not something, apparently for you, it is a huge ordeal and it's not a good thing. But for some reason, it's like you have Tourette's with cancer.
I
Okay.
do.
So I would rather
I
you
have
go
cancer
ahead and try to,
Tourette's or something.
we'll do it tomorrow. I can come back here tomorrow and I can destroy you again. Okay.
That was the funniest thing you said. I actually kind of can't believe that you think that you did well,
Hey,
let alone
hey,
like won the discussion.
Cancer.
Are you
Hey,
like
cancer.
are you like breathing heavy into the microphone? Is this like your pre-cry?
No, it's not. Dude, I am going to go right
Okay.
now and leave and live a great life.
Okay.
This has just been entertainment for me.
Okay.
This has been great. I love it.
Yeah, and chat too.
Your chat is, I don't care. Honestly, guess what, guys? I'm going to give you my home address. Come on over.
You shouldn't do that.
I'm doing it right now.
I highly recommend. Okay, I'm gonna kick you. I don't think you should give your home address. Make sure you're double tapping on that screen, sharing it with your friends, doing all that good stuff. You know, you gotta. I don't know. I don't feel good. I wouldn't feel good. I have had people. I used to do this when people were like, "I'm not afraid of death. I welcome death," and then I asked them, "Oh yeah, what's your home address?" And then I've had some people like literally do it, and I always feel terrible. Like, please don't do that. Emphatically, Like I ask you from the bottom of my heart, you know, I don't want anyone like doxing themselves or something. Phantom, thanks so much for the super chat. 20 buckaroos for Malak. The Malak cosmological argument. Molly, that one was like a pretty good clip, I think. That guy's like ultra clippable. Let's get a big W. Oh, sorry. Let's get a big W for Phantom, though. $20 is huge. Dr. Fudge, thanks so much for the super chat. He genuinely sounds like he's about to cry. He kind of always does this, right? He like comes on and he's like, what, you're saying God doesn't exist? How do you know? Matt Apples, thanks so much for the super chat. The caller does not know the difference between egotistical and knowledge and facts. True. Although, I don't know. It's good entertainment. Grimmy, thanks so much for the super chat. Guess parents don't always do what's best for their children, and your God is real. If your God is real, he definitely doesn't do what is most beneficial for his creation, only what is most beneficial for his wants. Yeah, I mean, that's like obviously true, right? Like there's just like a trillion things that would make life so much better. A trillion things to change about the human body, a trillion things to change about our environment. You know, millions of people starve to death each year. We could have just photosynthesized. Like genuinely, so much could be different. It could have been really good. Kane, thanks so much for the super chat. Ah, yes, Christians never stand on street corners. True. Maybe he disagrees with that. Although I think if Christianity is true, you probably have like a strong moral obligation to try to convince people. Mike Bowen, thanks so much for the super chat. The argument from wah, it's mean to say you're right and I'm wrong. Wah, you make money. Wah, man, you don't have to be here. You have free will. Yeah. He was talking to me like I was like holding him hostage in the debate. Grimmy, thanks so much for super chat. If you're good, if your God is real, damn phone. Okay. Slow TDI, thanks so much for super chat. If you look at this silly and tell me God isn't real, you're egotistical YouTuber who makes money using logic. Grrr. Carl Smash. Slow TDI, thanks so much for the super chat. You just got your first follower, Carl. Carl now worships you. True. Pol Pot's China. Ah, yes. Stalin's Brazil. Did he say Pol Pot's China? I totally missed that if he said Pol Pot's China. That's very funny. Is Pol Pot Cambodia? Or is he, I want to say I could be totally wrong about that. Mary Andrew, thanks so much for the super chat. The caller's syllogism is giving me a silly gasm. True. Based. Real. Isn't he doing that for all? Simeon Churin, thanks so much for the super chat. Someone call Carl a wambulance. Stop whining, bro. Yeah, I was thinking about calling him one. You know, I was thinking about helping him wipe his tears or something. I don't know, man. Just be like a chill guy. And it won't be like humiliating. I don't know why somebody would like willingly go and humiliate themselves in that way. Christopher Sanford, thanks so much for the super chat. You have a problem with cancer, bro. You don't? That's a good ass question. You know, we would agree that cancer is bad, right? Mike Bowen, thanks so much for the super chat. You're weak, I say, failing to choke back tears. Unreal belonging. Thanks so much for the super chat. To be concerned with compassion and wisdom rather than greatness wins. Yeah. This guy's unwise and unvirtuous. Dr. Fudge, thanks so much for the super chat. I appreciate you. Cancer isn't a big deal. Banger argument. Real. True. Okay. Let's go to the very next guest. Truth Nuke. Hey, what's up? How's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
Doing well. How old are you?
18.
Yep. And what religion?
I'm a Christian.
Yeah. What makes you think that God exists?
So it's not like fact that he does exist, but I just choose to believe because I have faith in God that he does exist, and I want to know why you don't think he exists.
Sorry. What year were you born?
2007.
2007. You're 18. Chat, does this check out? I have no idea if this checks out. One sec. I have to wait for chat to do the math for me. It does? Okay, it does. Sure. I'm so sorry. Okay, so you're saying that it's all faith. Do you think I don't know, do you think faith gives you justification for the belief?
I don't think it really gives justification. I just think that because the Bible, God is all spread on faith. So my point of view is I believe in him because I read the Bible and I go to church. That's just my belief, and I would like to know why you don't think he's real.
Yeah, I guess I just like look to the world around me. So, okay, the way that we evaluate hypotheses, like the way that we're going about like figuring out evidence, we have like a hypothesis that there's this all-powerful, all-good, all-knowing God who exists and is sovereign over the world. And the world just doesn't look like that at all. In the same way, let's say we're traveling to a kingdom and we hear that the king of this kingdom is he's wise and he's powerful and he's just. But then when we enter into the kingdom, there's like the bodies of men, women, and children just hanging from lampposts. Well, you know, we can stop and reflect. Maybe the king just doesn't know about it, but then the king's not as wise as we once thought. Or maybe he does know about it, but he doesn't have the power to stop it, in which case he's not as powerful as we once thought. Or maybe he does know about it and does have the power to stop it and just chooses not to, in which case he simply wouldn't be as just as we once thought. Similarly, you know, I look to the world around me. What the fuck? That was so loud. Why is that fucking loud? What the
So, back to your last debate with that guy. I heard you say God created all things, but in the Bible, the devil was trying to take God's place, but God kicked him out of heaven. So there's a heaven and a hell in the Bible, correct?
Yeah.
So if the God created good things, the devil is creating cancer and all of this trying to kill your faith. But
gotta love the way.
All right, Evie,
But-
Evie, you get one more. The person who keeps sending those, you get one more, and then I'm gonna like block you or something.
But so there's a heaven and a hell. The devil
Yeah.
created cancer, all the bad things in the life, but God's not doing anything about it because he's trying to test your faith.
Sure. I mean, the Bible just says otherwise. The Bible says that he's the creator of all things.
Exactly. But there's a hell and there's a heaven, correct?
Yeah.
And the devil was just as powerful almost as God was. That's why he was trying to take his place, because the devil thought he was more powerful than God. That's why God kicked him out.
Sure, but would you agree or disagree that God's the creator of cancer?
I think I would disagree on that.
Okay, so would you disagree that in, I don't know, for example, Colossians 1:16, when it says, "For in him all things in heaven and on earth were created, things visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or powers, all things have been created through him and for him." Would you disagree with that?
I would agree.
Okay. I mean, cancer is one of the things that's on heaven, or sorry, that's on earth. So if it's true that for in him all things in heaven and on earth were created, well, then God just is the creator. I don't know what the fuck. I don't know if there's like a way to fix this. Okay. That's fine. I mean, I guess it's like $1 each time, although it makes for like shitty content, which sucks. I can't do it while I'm live. Do I have to go in and like, yeah, maybe I will. Maybe that's worth it. I don't know. Yeah, I could probably do that. Yeah. One sec. I'm gonna restart. I'll be right back. Yo, TikTok is such a great fucking app. God, fucking love this app. Don't we all love TikTok? Great fucking piece of shit, dog shit, horrible, stupid fuck app. Literally piece of shit garbage, horribly coded, like made by like brain dead imbeciles, fucking incompetently coded, most baffling bugs that you've ever seen in your entire life. Like total fucking clusterfuck train wreck app. You know, can't solve basic issues, allows the fucking meme code to make its way to production ass app. You know, the fucking useless ass, stupid ass, fucking attention span destroying ass app. I love TikTok. goddamn sweatshop adjacent fucking app, you know, literal like pennies for hundreds of thousands of views ass app. How the fuck do I okay, so I go in here and then I want to say live gifts. Okay, so I turn those off. Okay. I'll have to try turning them on. Unfortunately, the songs are only like $1. I mean, if each song was like fucking $10 or something, then maybe I would let them like interrupt, but man, it just ruins like the chance of being able to like really clip anything. So I don't know. It just like the economics of it just don't make sense, I think. You know, we're striving towards good content. Do I have more controls over like gifts or something? One sec. Let me do a quick check to see if there's any fucking thing that I need to be doing otherwise. Okay, I think that's fine. All right. Let's get ready to ramble. Beep 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 beep. Beep 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 beep. You ready for this? Holy shit, dude. That shit was like startling. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me go ahead and throw this back in. Yeah, my heart is full of hate. But not for TikTok. I love TikTok. TikTok's such a great app. I think my favorite thing about TikTok is like simply how well it's like programmed, you know? It was just made so well with so much care, a lot of love even, you know. TikTok is just a great app, especially the TikTok shop that doesn't carry garbage and does carry, you know, useful, worthwhile things that are worth buying. You know, how would you like to buy chocolate 300% over, what is it, MSRP? Or is that just a car thing? You know, who wouldn't want to? Also, I mean, if you Can you imagine? Can you imagine how like wackily silly you'd have to be to eat something that you bought off the TikTok shop? That's like kind of unbelievable. Anyway, what do I do? How do I yap? How do I yap the time away? Hey, we're doing a reading group. It's Rosalind Hurstouse's On Virtue Ethics. We had just finished reading the chapters about right action. So Rosalind Hursthouse, one of the common critiques of virtue ethics is that it doesn't tell you what to do. It only tells you what kind of person to be. You know, it doesn't tell you that you should respect people's rights. It only tells you, you know, be virtuous. But Rosalind Hursthouse went through like painstaking lengths to show how it actually does tell you what to do in various circumstances, because it tells you that you should be honest and you should be kind and you should be just. So it's it was great. The reading group was really interesting, and we have really interesting discussions there too. And if you want to join in on that, if you want to learn a bit about virtue ethics, feel free to join the book club. It's every 8 p.m. EST. It's in the Discord, which is discord.gg/allegedlyian as well. I guess we have more supers that we can read while we wait for guests to trickle on in. Vote for Jesus. Thanks so much for the super chat. Jesus loves you. Wow. Well, I appreciate the $5. I don't know if Jesus is alive. Smart Burning. Thanks so much for the $1. Appreciate you. That's awesome. Oh, that's not good. This is bullshit. Is this... Did I not turn gifts off properly? How the fuck do you turn gifts off? Okay, we got Truth Over Faith. Thanks so much for super chat. Hey Ian, got any good book recommendations for someone who wants to learn about philosophy? Yeah. My greatest request, or my biggest recommendation is that I think everyone should read Michael Huemer's Knowledge, Reality, and Value, not because he's right about everything. He's wrong about like a lot of things. But there are some things that he's right about. And he also gives you a very intuitive starting point, one might say, that he's able to justify all the positions that the common person will intuit as being correct. Not all of them, but, a lot of them. And then, from the intuitive positions, you can then start to arrive at unintuitive positions through logical reasoning and reflection, like veganism, for example. But it's like obviously true if you think about it. So Michael Huemer's Knowledge, Reality, and Value. It's really good. HTC, thanks so much for the chat. Can I get a clean take of your scenario where a Christian is not obligated to save a drowning person? Thanks. So, okay, let's say that you think that God exists and that he's all good and that God always does the good thing, the most good thing. Maybe this is the argument that I want to make. God creates the best possible world. He creates the most good timeline. Everything in this timeline that happens is the most good thing that could possibly happen. The reason why that's true is because otherwise, if there's a better timeline that God could have created, then he's not all good. If God can possibly create some like better timeline, then a better God would have done that. So he can't be the best God because there are better gods that are possible. So we live in the best possible timeline, but that seems to imply that whatever I do, it's better that I do whatever I end up doing than the reverse. So let's say that there's a kid drowning in the lake and then I just choose to walk away and let them drown. If this is the best possible timeline, then that was the best decision that I could have made because it's the one that I did make. It just seems to imply that whatever we do is the best possible thing that we could have done. But, that's unintuitive. Hey, how's it going?
Hello, it's going well, and yourself?
Doing well, doing well. Yeah. What do you want to discuss this time?
Well, just briefly to start, Carl, who just crashed out talking to you, has literally just joined John Cohen's live and is doing the exact same thing.
Oh
That's how
my.
well he thought it went.
I thought he had to go somewhere. Did he have like an urgent like
Well,
getting his ass kicked appointment at 4:30? Like
he thought it went so well with you, Ian, that he's
oh
just
no.
gone straight for another.
Oh
Dear,
no.
dear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure he's having like a
I'm
like a
not
big
trying to
fucking
funnel
fit.
people from here to
No, it's
there,
okay. It's okay.
but a few people might want to
Yeah.
check that.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, what I wanted to talk to you about is I saw that you convinced Matt Dillahunty that morality is objective.
I did.
And just round of applause for a moment. Fair play. But I listened to the kind of replay of you doing it because you didn't actually do it. Like, was it on a live stream or was it just a personal chat you had with him? Because
It was a
I
personal
saw
chat.
a YouTube video. Yeah, okay, and you kind of replayed it for the YouTube video. Yeah, I saw that, and I'm really liking, in general, the whole virtue ethics thing.
Hmm.
But there are a few steps that I feel like I can't take that I was surprised Matt Dillahunty was willing to go with on you.
I should probably clarify that the argument that I presented to Matt Dillahunty, I think that that's gonna play like a piece in virtue ethics. Like I think that that has like a role to play. What I think that argument establishes is the reasons that you have to not interfere with other people's rights. Like I think that that roughly gets right the rights that other people have. But virtue ethics is going to be a framework about like character traits. I think that those rights are relevant for like the character trait of justice, for example. I think that if you have justice as a
Hmm.
character trait, then you're going to treat like cases alike, which means that you're going to, in the same way that everyone's committed to saying that you ought to have your own freedom and well-being. But if you're going to treat like cases alike, then you need to say that everybody has their own right to freedom and well-being.
Yeah, totally. It's establishing an objective human right
Mhm.
rather than an entirely fleshed out moral framework.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
conversation
yeah.
you have with Matt, right? Yeah, totally. And it's just the mere claim that there are objective moral values or rights that I can't quite take all the steps to get to you
Sure.
with. So I wondered if I could run through that with you and maybe
Yeah.
poke at where I can't take the steps.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so it's early on. We both agree, I think, when I've run you through my epistemology on like a we are agents. That is unavoidably the case.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And you go to the step then, correct me if I'm wrong at any point, to say because we are agents, we have goals and therefore we can kind of apply the principle of the fact that we are an agent and have goals to everyone else. And then there's the justice principle to be applied. Is that right?
Yeah, that's like more or less right. Basically, the way that the progression goes is that we're agents, so we take all these various actions to achieve goals. But basically, what it means to have goals in the first place is that you yourself have decided that this is a thing that's worth pursuing. If it's not worth pursuing, then it
Mhm.
wouldn't be your goal. And that's where the normativity comes from. It's because you are unavoidably an agent, and agents have unavoidably presupposed certain normativity, and it's inescapable.
Yes. Okay. So that's the step where I find myself struggling to go with you because, and we've talked about this briefly before when we previously spoke about virtue ethics in general, the nature of what is good for each of us, this eudaimonia, is based upon the nature of what we are. Like, it is good to drink water because water is what sustains us, right?
Yeah, basically. I mean, they're okay, wait. We should probably I don't think that like the argument I presented to Dillahunty is like a virtue ethics argument. I think that virtue ethics would probably subsume it, but we got to make sure if you say virtue ethics, I'm assuming that you're going to be talking about like the eudaimonia stuff, which is separate from the stuff that I presented to Matt.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I'm trying to think of an example that applies more precisely to the mere human rights stuff. Yeah, I think it still applies because we're making goals, and that's the key part of what leads us to the principle that we shouldn't infringe upon other people's ability to achieve their goals, right?
Yeah. What commits us to saying that we shouldn't infringe on other people's rights is the fact that we're an agent, and us being an agent is sufficient for us claiming a right to freedom and well-being. But in order for this to be like a logically consistent inference, we would need to say that agency itself is sufficient for the right to freedom and well-being itself.
Yeah, it implies that, and therefore it should be applied everywhere. I get that. My critique is kind of the step before about the goals themselves. Do you think one can be reasonably skeptical of any given goal?
Could you elaborate what it would mean to be skeptical of a goal? Like skeptical of your goal?
Yeah, like self-reflective of one's own priorities, values, and goals.
I think that there's probably certain goals that are inescapable. Like, for example, I don't think that you can be skeptical of the goal to be like skeptical of all of your goals. Or like, I don't think you can be skeptical of the goal to like rationally reflect on what you should do.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're entering into the moral discussion in the first place, you've already agreed to try to figure out like, okay, what should I do? And you're searching for an answer to that question. So kind of intrinsic to like the, well, what should I do, is that you have the goal of figuring that out. I don't think that that's the sort of goal that you could be skeptical of.
But do you think it's possible to fail to justify any actual goals?
I don't know what that would mean.
Well, like what that would lead to in terms of actual activity, I agree. I don't really know what that would look like. Like to inactively will oneself out of existence. Yeah, it kind of destroys the ground you're standing on to do it. But even though that's the case, it seems like it in theory should be a live option that if I can't justify any particular goals, then I shouldn't assume that the goals that I have are justified.
So I think the problem is that by being an agent at all, like even in order to make sense of that framework, you would need to hold the goal of being able to justify some goals. I think that there are goals that are simply inescapable.
I agree. So that's why I brought up the water one, because of the nature of what we are, we need water to keep setting and attaining goals. And so the kinds of goals that are inescapable and the kinds of goals that within the framework can be labeled objectively good are based on like what we are. If I was the kind of organic being that needed to drink, I don't know, jet fuel instead of water, then my goals would be different, and my morality, maybe only subtly, but it would be different. My eudaimonia would be different. Is that fair?
I think to an extent, yeah, that certainly if to an extent. So I think that
I don't think
you're going to need to claim a right to freedom and well-being no matter what. Like, for example, I don't think that there's like any sort of state wherein, you know, suddenly you can go around like raping people for fun. You know, I don't think that there's like a sort of like development, like an evolutionary pathway that could have taken place where that's like a goal that's consistent with your own self-respect.
Yeah, I hear you. And the example I just gave wouldn't change much of the fundamentals of the virtues proposed in virtue ethics, for sure. But one can imagine a creature that is sentient and different enough from humans that eudaimonia would look, you know, vastly different and maybe even be at odds with a human's eudaimonia.
I don't know about vastly different. I'm not too sure that I think that it could be hugely different. I think that the commitments of eudaimonia, like there are some things, like specifically if we evaluate like freedom and well-being, there are some facts about freedom and well-being and some facts about what you need in order to have freedom and well-being that come from your biology, right? In order for you to have well-being as a human, that requires you to have water. And in order to have well-being as like a Glorx, that might require like crushed up rocks or something like that. But ultimately, both are going to be committed to saying that the other, in virtue of their agency, ought to have well-being. So
Yeah. So, with the eudaimonia being so tied to the kind of creature biologically that we are, do you think that that opens a potential criticism that eudaimonia is itself, in some ways, arbitrary? Like, if we were able to genetically engineer humans or other biological organisms to have different types of needs or even psychological desires, does your moral framework establish the kinds of desires that we ought to give something if we had control over such things, which we might in future, even of ourselves?
So I think we're probably looking at the wrong place. The objective part of ethics isn't the ends, it's the means. The question is always like, how do we get to these means that we're all committed to, pursuing? And the way that we arrive at the means, like the objective means in virtue ethics is the virtues. It's not the eudaimonia. The eudaimonia is just like a vehicle to get to the virtues. So, I mean, and like the commitments that these virtues are going to follow from are like very minimal. Like it's going to be things like, you have self-respect in terms of like your life, which I think that everything is required to have, just like by being like an agent that reflects on the question, like, what should I do? I think that as soon as you're asking a question like, what should I do? Well, you're now giving answers. And, if I was to ask like, well, like, why should I debate? Well, I should debate because I enjoy it, because it is like a great vehicle for developing my own like intellectual understanding of things. But okay, well, why should I develop my own intellectual understanding of things? Well, I mean, it helps me navigate like my overall life pretty well. I mean, it adds to my wisdom. I mean, but one thing that you'll notice, ignore the fact that we arrived at a virtue just now, but one thing that you'll notice is that it's when you answer the question about why you're doing a specific activity, the answers get wider and wider and wider across the course of your entire life. So whatever the ultimate reason for why we do what we do is, it must span the course of the entire life. And like self-respect just is like a positive evaluation of this. The ultimate end is going to need to be something that you can positively evaluate across the course of the entire life. And in order to do that, there are arguments that would establish that you need to be just.
Yes.
And I think that that's probably just true of like all agents, all reflective agents. I think that every reflective agent is probably bought into this.
Okay, but within that framework, let's say that we were able to, via genetic engineering and like, meta-human technology, produce humans that were ultimately fulfilled by being obsequious. Like they wanted to follow orders. And that could lead to what some might say is a morally justified form of slavery, because the things we've produced actually enjoy it, and we've made them such that they enjoy it. How does that fit into your framework?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. In fact, there's like an author that writes basically about this exact point. Nira Boudoir writes the book that looks like it looks like a self-help book. I'm sure people are surprised to find out that it's actually academic philosophy, but it's titled Well-Being, Happiness in an Objectively Worthwhile Life, or something like that. And okay, one of the like kind of her main point is that what the good life consists in is living an autonomous life where you're trying to succeed in being autonomous, which requires like going about understanding all of the things at play in your life, that you need to be reality oriented and you need to be directing your own life. That's what makes it your own life, is that you're directing it. One of the Aristotle slogans is that we live by acting, by taking actions is how a human lives their life. But I think that the true elaboration of that is that we are able to live and differentiate our lives by taking autonomous actions. So when we're living in ways where we're acting from a position of our own understanding, that is what like a minimal commitment of being an agent at all. I mean, if you're saying like these people don't want to be agents, well, I mean, I think that we could probably level some arguments for why this is wrong, like why it's wrong to want this sort of relationship with a human. But I don't think that if like someone was like pre-programmed to do all sorts of actions that you could per se like hold them morally responsible. They've been pre-programmed to respond to like some reasons and not to others.
So if we turn that kind of ability to change one's affections and desires upon ourselves, let's say that you had the ability, and I doubt that this would happen within our lifetime, but who knows, AI is crazy. Say you had the ability to change your neural chemistry and like the dopaminergic motivational circuits in your body such that you could actually decide what fulfills you on a biological level. Is there any way to guide the kinds of decisions you'd make about what you would have fulfill you?
Yeah.
Within your framework?
Yeah, I think logic. Like logic is going to help you arrive at what is wise to have fulfill you. That I don't know, at a point like this, I would probably appeal to things like justice requiring that you treat like cases alike. And then I'd probably run an argument that's pretty similar to the one that I gave to Dillahunty about freedom and well-being, that whatever you decide to fulfill you, it needs to be something that's compatible with freedom and well-being.
And you don't think that there is any way that we could change our biology such that that would ever be a principle that would be infringed by the nature of what we are? Do you think that would be consistent simply because we are an agent?
I think so. I can't think of any action that you could do if you're dead. I can't think of any action that you could do if you had like zero freedom to take the action. It's kind of like a bare minimum requirement.
Yeah. What about something like, and this might be a little in the weeds, I'm happy to hop down and think further about what you've said. It's interesting. But say you could slow your metabolism down so much that you live over a 10,000 year lifespan and you just move incredibly slowly and think incredibly slowly, and like you're just so that puts you on a completely different like psychological level in your reference to time to other people. Do you think that maybe I can make it worse? Let's say that like someone is a vampire. Someone needs to feed on human blood in order to survive. Do you think that that changes their moral position in relation to humanity?
I think that's a good question. I have no idea. I think that you can run into like similar circumstances. So I think it becomes a question at that point of whether or not somebody's right to not get eaten by you. Like whether or not in a circumstance where you're going to die. No, I think probably the ethical thing is for that person to die off. I think that it's in contradiction with their agency.
Yeah. So I think that the thing that this leads me to is the idea that the moral virtues in some sense seem to be based on our biology, and our biology is ultimately arbitrary. And so I find myself just feeling like I'm on not super sturdy ground, especially considering that our biology can and might even in the not too distant future change dramatically.
Sure, but to the extent that you are directing your own biology to change in a specific way, well, I mean, if you change it into something that is like impermissible, well, that's bad, that's impermissible.
Yeah, people should not turn themselves into vampires. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that my description of virtues being based on our biology and our biology being arbitrary is a mischaracterization of reality?
Well, it depends what you mean by arbitrary. Like, we certainly didn't choose our biology. I agree with that. But I don't know, maybe like a good example, or maybe like a good thing to think about. I do think that there might be like legitimately tough, like ethical puzzles if humans were strictly carnivorous. Because I think veganism is true, and it's true based on basic commitments that something like animal abuse is bad. Like, if you think animal abuse
animals
is bad,
are
that,
agents,
that
right?
probably not even. Just if you think like it's bad to cause animals like immense suffering, well, that's kind of where basically all of the meat that you've ever eaten comes from, is like animal torture factories. So it's like, I don't know. I think that there would be like pretty interesting ethical puzzles that would arise there. In fact, at that point, you might just have to adopt like a moral skepticism if humans were like strictly carnivorous, and the like the carnivorous aspect of it is that we need to eat like some other like sentient, intelligent, morally valuable creature. I don't know. At that point, we might just have the obligation to die. But I mean,
Yeah,
luckily we don't live in
interesting.
that world, so
We don't know, but we could conceivably. It's not impossible that this world becomes that world in some way.
oh, but that would be like strictly impermissible. Like, I would just say that you ought not do that.
Yeah, I agree. I follow you, but it does. It does. It's a worrying possibility.
I don't know. I mean,
it makes me think. Go ahead.
I'm not too worried about it.
Okay, good. I'm glad you're not. Don't lose any sleep over it. It makes me think of C.S. Lewis's The Abolition of Man. Do you know that book?
No.
It's a real short read, real interesting moral philosophy. It talks about being able to see through the reason for everything until you're seeing through everything, and then you're seeing nothing, ultimately. And that there needs to be a non-arbitrary moral point. The reason that I wanted to ask you about this is because I think the soft underbelly of my belief in God is my views of value. That's what leads me to conclude that God is real. And if there is a material, non-God related way to justify morals, then that seriously cuts the legs from my convictional belief in God. Yeah,
that makes sense.
I'm exploring it.
Although, okay, I mean, I guess, yeah, that totally makes sense. Although I think I probably have the opinion that God doesn't help you out with ethics, that either ethics are objective or subjective, and either state could be compatible with God's existence. Like, I think if ethics are subjective, then God existing and saying you ought to do this, like, can't change that. And I think that if ethics are objective, they would have to be objective in a way that doesn't come from God saying that you ought to do this. Like, kind of either way, I think that there would be like, I just don't think that God could possibly be in like the causal or like the explanatory chain for ethics, like why things are good and other things are bad. It just seems like it would be totally independent of it.
I hear you, but I guess the problem it seems to solve, as I'm thinking about the perspective you just put forward, is that at least there is one non-arbitrary point by which we can orient everything as a reference. That in some sense, yeah, it might still be a subjective. God is a subject. If by objective we mean like stance independent or perspective independent, then there is no such thing as that in a God worldview. God has a perspective and is the only thing at one point. But it's non-arbitrary. It's at least non-arbitrary.
So it's non-arbitrary in the same way that if you and I decided to listen to my friend Greg, like let's say my friend Greg says, you know, on Thursdays we all go to the pub and drink with our friends, and then, you know, don't rape people, and then we all just decide to listen to Greg, you know, in the same way that
I mean, that all sounds
you
good.
characterize like that as like universal. But I don't know. I mean, it still seems like the ultimate authority. Like if you trace where the reasons are coming from, they seem to just be coming from your own subjective decision to listen to it. Like maybe
Well,
religion.
You
like,
can
it's-
just choose not to. Yes, but like if it's coming from the one unmoving one thing that cannot be otherwise, like that is one step more secure than anything else ever can be.
So there's a couple of things that we could say in response to this. Either so you might mean this in like a. Do you think God has free will?
I don't think we know what we're talking about when we say that. He's an
Like,
agent.
Do you think it's like
sure.
possible that he could have done something else?
I have no idea how God considers choices, especially because I think God is outside of time, and I know you have a problem with that. So
I also
where
have
do
a
we wanna
problem
go?
when he's in time. I think both
Yeah,
have
you
problems.
have a problem with God. I've noticed what's above your head.
I'm angry at him. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. So either God is going to have like the free will, like he's going to have like some ability to do otherwise, or he's not. I mean, if you don't think God has free will, then it seems like super
I
arbitrary.
don't think
why
God has
he-
less than free will. I just don't know what an array of choices even looks like conceptually to a being such that we are describing when we say God. Like I have no reference point for that.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, I understand that. Like, obviously, we would have to infer. I'm skeptical of the coherence of this move, but what theists like to do is they like to infer based on what it's like for us, and then say it's like analogical to that for God. That it's something like God thinking through these propositions about ethics, and he gets to choose which one he ends up giving to Moses.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I think that if you're coming from a place where you don't believe in God and you're asking about what it is like to be God, why God does something, how God sees anything, then I think as a part of a conversation to come to a belief in a God, like what we're discussing is whether God exists. I don't think those kinds of questions can lead us to questions that will lead us towards or away from God, because they're just epistemically unapproachable.
In terms of like thinking through like why God makes the decisions that he does.
Yeah, like we'd have to have access to an unfathomable amount. Like
that's fine. I don't think that we need to
Yeah.
know like his reasons. The question is just like, would there be a contradiction if instead God said, thou shalt not own slaves? Like, would that entail some sort of contradiction? Because if it would entail a contradiction, then presumably he just lacks free will, and this is just like the most good thing that he could have said. I picked a pointed example. It doesn't need to be one. It could really be.
I know it's cool. I
commandments.
get you. It's fine. Yeah, I hear you. I guess hypothesizing about God's choices, as if we even know what those choices like are, like what they look like in an array in front of him, I don't think it leads us anywhere. Like I don't think, even as someone who believes in God, I don't think that even God himself can make that accessible to us.
Oh, I'm not
because
asking
of the nature of what we are.
I'm not asking for it to be accessible. The only thing that matters for the purposes of our conversation is whether he has the free will to do otherwise. If God has the free will to do otherwise, then his decree that this is what we should do is, as powerful as like if I wrote like a list of things that you should do and then I died, so I can't change that, and then everyone just decided to listen to my list of things that you should do.
I hear you. I guess this takes us back to Greg, who says on Thursdays we go to the pub and we don't rape. Like, Greg isn't a non-arbitrary point to reference to orient the world to, though.
Why is God less arbitrary than Greg, though?
Because by definition, God is a non-arbitrary, non-contingent thing.
Oh, that seems like question begging. That's kind of the thing in question.
Well, what I'm saying is not that this therefore should lead you to believe that God exists. I'm more critiquing the methodology by which we can evaluate whether God exists. I don't think asking the kinds of questions that we are asking about why does God do what he does? What kinds of choices does God have? And how can we evaluate whether he's made good ones or not can be a fruitful way of exploring the question, does God exist?
Well, I guess what I'm trying to get clear on is like it's just not clear to me why choosing to listen to God is a less arbitrary decision than choosing to listen to Greg. These seem like roughly the same. Like you just subjectively need to decide to do that. If it truly is just like God is saying this, and there isn't like really an explanation for it, then
Well, what God claims within Christianity, obviously, and this opens a whole other kind of worms. But what God is saying is that He is good, and that He loves us. Now, He could be lying to us, even within the Christian framework. He could be just flat out lying. But in like a game theory sense, the only win state that we can access is if God is telling us the truth, that he is good in that scenario. If he's not good, we're never going to catch him out in a lie. Like he's apparently an all-knowing, all-powerful being. And even if he's not, he's certainly more equipped to deceive us than we ever are to evaluate him.
So I think this runs into like a Euthyphro problem. It's not like the explanatory chain as to why God is good. It seems like we're putting the cart before the horse. So in order for God to be good, I would need some reason to listen to him. If there's no reason for me to listen to him, then we can't say that God is good. That's kind of like it's explanatorily prior that everyone would have a reason to listen to him, and then because everyone has a reason to listen to him, that makes him good. But that's the very thing in question. We're trying to figure out whether or not everyone has a reason to listen to him.
Yeah, so that's fair. How do you think God could, if at all? Do you think that it becomes like agnostic at this point, that God, in the world as you've seen it right now, it would just be impossible for God to present any such evidence that he is good and we should listen to him?
I mean, like certainly he could just present like an argument. I don't know. I would just be interested, like what reason, this isn't true of me specifically, because obviously if God says I'm going to torture you, well, I don't want to get tortured. But like, it certainly seems possible that somebody could say, well, I don't care if God tortures me. I'm not going to do what he says. What reason would that person have to do what God tells them to? It just seems like they would subjectively need to decide to.
Yeah, sure. I hear you. This, for me, it gets into a pretty fluffy, poetic description of what Christianity is. But I find it compelling, personally. I'm convinced of it for reasons other than this. But like, it seems to me that the Christian God is the God who it does a few things with Jesus and the cross. He lets us, humanity, become the least possible loving thing and betray and harm him in the highest possible degree we possibly can. And in that moment, he says, I love you, and this is the means by which I redeem you. So there's something like seemingly, poetically at least, maximally redemptive and glorious, even in the horror of the betrayal and execution in the prime of his life when everyone knew he was innocent and all of that. And then there's another sense in which he takes on literal human flesh and dies a horrific death, such that he is like, okay, you want to hold me responsible for all of the horrible things? Okay, what kind of thing do you want to do to me? I'm God, I'll take full responsibility. And so humans get to give him the punishment we would like to, and he just takes it. And evil, whatever that is, the horror that is evil, is allowed to unleash itself on him in every way possible. And at the end of it, he stands up and says, is that all you got? I still love you. You can come with me in this redemption.
Give me just a sec. My shit got this sucks. My shit got fried on stream. One sec. I don't know why Restream keeps doing this. Let me okay, this goes there. And then this goes that goes there, this goes here. Okay. All right. So I think that that's like a great story, right? It's like great like narrative or whatever. I just have no idea why that gives anybody a reason. Like if somebody says I don't care about any of that, I just have no idea what reason they would have to then do what Jesus says.
Oh, well, if they don't care about the narrative that, if they don't think Jesus is fulfilling the narrative I just put forward, then of course they wouldn't. Yeah.
Well, wait, but even if they think that he does, like even if they oh no, that's so sad. It didn't fucking work. That's too bad. How do I turn off
Not just TikTok
gifts? TikTok live studio. It means I reset for nothing. Fuck. Oh. Fuck. Okay, I see. That's I'm stupid.
You see a way.
Yeah. I figured out how to do it, but it's too late. Motherfuck. Okay, whatever. Turn off video gifts. Is there a way to do that? I don't think there's a way to do that.
I did. You know what would be hilarious though? If the people giving these gifts are all Christians, that they want you to debate people, and they're paying you not to debate Christians.
The problem is that it's like the economics of it don't make sense. Because I would only get paid like $1 for that. And
Yeah.
I don't know, like if I have a good conversation with someone, I just think that it's worth way more. Like I would make more posting it as like a YouTube clip or something, but it's unpostable if there's like this obnoxious fucking like gra da 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 da
For sure.
da 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 gra fucking like grating in the
Although
background.
you
You
doing
know?
impressions of it
Yeah.
might be worth it.
Yeah.
People will pay for that, Ian.
Yeah. It just doesn't I don't know, it doesn't make sense to do. But I don't know. Okay.
We've
but-
ended up a little in the weeds from where I was going.
Yeah. But now I
Yeah.
understand how to do it. I think I might hit the restart, but I do know how to fix it this time, so it's gonna be fine. Okay, one sec. Let me go ahead. So you just hit go live, and then you hit the fuck? I can't believe how fucked I got by. I'm literally gonna blow my brains out, dude. In a video game, not really. YouTube, not really. No. In a video game, in Minecraft, in Roblox. Holy fucking shit, dude. Where is it? Is there not just like a place? Damn it.
I don't know about you, but every time I open Live Studio, it feels like everything is in a different place.
They always do this. It's oh god, because it's such fucking garbage. I hate TikTok so much. This is like, I don't know, it's just like a peak TikTok thing to do, you know? Like you just fuck everything up like irreconcilably, uncontrollably, in all possible worlds. And I don't know, it's just what they do. It's who they are. I just want to know on TikTok Studio. Okay, wait. I have a fuck. This is bullshit. I guess we're watching tutorial videos. Is there just no way to do it? Okay, so the settings menu. Oh, oh, oh. Okay, wait, we got it. I figured it out. I'll say no gifts. Fuck yeah, let's go. Okay. Okay. I did figure it out. I did figure it out. Okay. It's apparently in settings. That's true. They didn't lie to me. I'm sorry, chat. Okay, we figured it out. Look at us. We're such problem solvers. I'm proud of us. Okay. Yeah, somebody encourage or somebody not encourage. I don't need your fucking encouragement. Somebody just verify for me that you can't send gifts, and then we'll be good to go. Okay, based. Yeah, fuck those guys. Okay, we're back. We did it. Where were we?
I'd just given a really fluffy, poetic summary of Christianity. You
Hmm.
said, but I have no reason to
Yeah,
care.
I just don't like
essentially.
if somebody says, well, and not like me specifically, obviously, I'd probably believe in Christianity. If like what the Bible says is true, then I'd want to believe in it. But it seems like totally possible that a person could see all this and say, I don't care. And at that point, it's not clear what reason they have to do what Jesus says.
Yeah, people do that. Apathy is a response that Christians receive on a regular basis and are tormented by. Totally.
Yeah.
But that's true of everything, isn't it? Like,
It's the
what could
question
that
of-
not be true of?
It's the question of why ought they? Like, why ought they care of it? It's not asking like a descriptive question about like, will people care? Will people not care? It's like, okay,
Hmm.
if they don't care, do they have a reason to care?
Do you think the fact that it's true isn't enough of a reason? Like, death isn't the end, death can be defeated, infinite joy is available?
So, well, that's the thing in question, right? Like, obviously, if Christianity is true, in order for it to be true, God would need to be an all good being, which means that we would all have a reason to listen to him. It's just not clear that that could be the case. It's not clear that it could be the case that every possible person with every possible mental state has a reason to do what God tells them to.
Even if it is true.
Yeah, it's not clear.
What kind of reason could there be? Like, I guess I'm
Well,
struggling to
well,
even
that's okay. Wait,
conceive.
sorry. So if it's true, then everyone would have a reason, but that's the thing in question.
Yes. Yeah, okay.
Like, let's say somebody believes in like the Christian God, but they don't grant that God is all good. Like, what reason would they have to do what God tells them to?
They wouldn't have one. I agree. Yeah,
Yep.
you'd have to be convinced of both. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, oh wait, okay, I have other people requesting to join. But we've been
Yeah, all
talking, we
good.
talked for like 45 minutes or something, but I appreciate it. I always
Yeah.
love talking to you.
Great chat. Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All the
Thanks
best.
for coming on. Appreciate you. Hey, if you're in that guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going, Ian?
Yeah.
Hey, that was a very interesting conversation. For what I understood, But anyways, the main issue I was wanting to speak about is you had spoke about homosexuality before, prior, and you had a female guest on. Is that not a topic you're willing to discuss now? Is it only about God? Is
I
that
only really do this for like, I mean, right now I'm doing the God topic. Do you have
well,
like a good reason to think maybe I'll do it? Maybe I'll run
well,
it just for fun. Do you
well,
have like a
the
good
only
reason to think like being gay is wrong?
well, yes, I do, and the reason why, a lot of the Christians that came on just weren't telling the truth. And I didn't understand why they kept avoiding the question, but it's pretty clear in the Bible. It talks about demonic beings, which it can be genetic in a sense. So in other words, you can be born a certain way and it be completely spiritual.
Hmm. But why would I think
So,
that the Bible is true?
well, I take it as true. I guess, that's up to you whether you take it as true or not. You know what I mean? That's your personal choice. But I see it as true. It's been proven in my life. I've proven it to myself.
Don't you think that you should have like evidence for the things that you believe before your beliefs are something that are like literally you think that these people are like have like demon genetics? Like,
Well, that's what the Bible tells me,
yeah,
right?
don't you think you
But
should have like really good evidence for the Bible before you say stuff that's like, I don't know, as like hurtful as that?
I know it is hurtful. I get that. And I don't mean it that way because I would say the same for any type of sexual immorality. I think it's immoral because that's what God tells me from the Bible.
But you have no
But I don't.
evidence. Like, why
Well,
would
I have
you?
anecdotal evidence which you would reject, but I accept, right?
Mhm.
Personally in my life, but I get what you're saying. You don't have the direct evidence because I believe that's not God's will, right?
Oh, God doesn't
But
want me to find him?
no, he does want you to find him, but he wants you to seek him. So he's not going to just reveal himself to the world. You got to show some faith. You got to put in the work as far as reading the Bible, praying. You got to repent. There's certain steps you have to take for him to reveal himself to you. I think in some ways he'll intervene.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like the sort of being that could possibly want a relationship with me. That would seem to make God irrational. If what's going to be required, I can't have a relationship with someone if I don't know that they exist. If I know that God exists, at that point, I can make a decision to either pursue a relationship with him or not pursue a relationship with him. But I need to know that he exists before I can do any of that. Otherwise, in the same way that I can't have a relationship with a woman if I don't know that she exists. I need to know that somebody exists in order for that person to be my girlfriend, in order for me to even be able to make that decision in the first place. So if what's necessary to achieve God's goal is that I know that he exists, and that is God's goal, then God ought give me some sort of reason to think that he exists. Otherwise, he's being irrational.
Well, I think the argument, if God was to make an argument, I think his argument would be it's about betrayal, right? Satan betrayed God, right? He brought sin into heaven. It brought death to 1/3 the angels who departed from heaven, right? So it's a matter of loyalty, right? So, for lack of a better term, an infectious disease.
But what does
It
that have
can't
to
be
do with me?
Well, because he needs to know that you have a loyal heart to him.
I don't even know
Or
that
you're
he
gonna bring
exists. How could I be loyal to him if I don't know that he exists?
Well, you have to seek him. I guess he has terms. And I think the spiritual realm, we can't really fully explain it or understand it. So, and that's one of the things where I think science, in a sense, like, theology is not in science. It's in the arts, is it not? When you think of college, right? Theology is in the arts.
Do you think
And why is science, you could get an AA or you can get an AS degree, right? So they're not going to line up. God theology is not, in scientific terms, in some ways, I believe it does correlate. Of course it does. But I do think, when you try to argue science and theology, they're not the same.
I don't know
Not
who's
gonna-
arguing science is the problem. This seems like totally unrelated. Do you think
No, I
that
agree.
you can be loyal to someone if you don't know that they exist? And could you give me an example of somebody you're loyal to that you don't know they exist?
Well, okay, so I think you can come to learn that he exists.
But you
But
need
you
to be
have to
loyal
take-
to him first.
No, you need to show some level of faith. If you seek him, he'll reveal himself.
Can I have faith in a thing that I don't know exists?
Well, try it. I mean, you try science experiments, right?
Sorry,
you can't.
I just want to know, like, can I have faith in a thing if I don't know that it exists?
Well, you can know
Oh,
it
also,
in-
and maybe even a better question, do you think that having faith in something gives you a reason to think that it's true?
No,
Oh, well,
no, I don't.
then
I think
clearly having
think-
faith isn't going to do anything.
no, it will. So in other words, I agree with you. When I first came to God, I was skeptical. I mean, I couldn't say I truly believed it in my heart. I didn't like. I'm not a really spiritual Christian in that sense. In other words, I've been to churches, many churches, and they speak in tongues, they do certain things, and I don't necessarily agree with all that. I do think speaking in tongues is real, but I think that man, we have evil intentions. It's our nature. And I think it can be manipulated. And I think there's a lot of frauds out there. I don't believe in the prosperity gospel. I think there's a lot of cults out there. But I think if you seek God with a genuine heart, he will reveal himself to you.
Do you think it's
So-
irrational to believe things without evidence?
Well, I have personal anecdotal evidence.
But only after you had faith. So do you think believing in something without any evidence that it's true, do you think that's rational?
Okay, say that again.
Yeah.
me
Is it
think about it.
rational to believe something with no evidence to believe it?
Yes and no. I only caveat. I would
No
agree with
kidding.
you, but I have a caveat. That's all. Is I don't think the Big Bang is necessarily any different. So absent a solution or an answer, I would put that caveat. But I do agree with you because it's the same way I felt in my heart. I'm like I could get up here and lie to you and say, I had faith for therefore God's real. But that's not how it happened, Ian. I mean, just speaking honestly, how it happened is I had faith. I tried out of, honestly, a lot of people argue that it comes from trauma. People are led to God through bad things. And that's how it happened in my life. But my point is when I did find God, I knew he was real. And he did reveal himself to me, not like, a meme or, it wasn't like you would think, but it's more like a knowledge of his existence and things that he's intervened in my life to save my life. And I believe it to be true. And I have anecdotal evidence. I don't use that because I don't think it does you any good. Because
Yeah.
God has to show you.
Well, but here's the problem is that you're telling me to do something that you agree is irrational. And then when I do the thing that is irrational, then God's going to give me the evidence. But in order for me to
Yeah.
care about the evidence, I would need to be rational. So in order to, it's a contradiction of values is what you're saying I have to get through. Like I have to stop caring about rationality and then I have to start caring about rationality again
For a time.
in order to know that God
a time.
exists. Like why would
For a
God make
time.
us individuals who want like rational information, who care about rationality and then demand that we be irrational?
Well, okay, so you wouldn't argue that it's impossible God exists, right?
Depends on the God. There are for sure some gods that are impossible.
I would agree. Okay, so Christianity, would you argue that is impossible that Christianity is real?
Oh no. I think that there are like easy disproofs of Christianity, mountains of contradictions. I don't know, there's like the ethical contradictions, and then there's just like problems with like God. The Trinity is total nonsense. The hypostatic union, Jesus being 100% man and 100% God, total nonsense. There's just so many like, and if Christianity is true, then it has to be Catholicism because it literally says in the Bible that, what is it? Like Peter is the rock that the church is going to be built on, and then the church will never be overtaken by sin. So it needs to be Catholicism as like the true one. And Catholicism
Well,
is
when you say
definitely
the church will
false.
when you say the church will never be taken over by sin, so you're making a misunderstanding there. The church is the body, the people. So
You
Peter,
pulled the verse.
okay, so when they say church, right, that can mean me, not the building. right? You do understand that part, right?
Oh wait, so okay. And I say, wait, one sec. Let me find the verse.
Okay.
And I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. So he's literally saying, like, Peter, the church that you found will never be, like, you are my church, you will never be overtaken by sin. And the church that Peter founds is Catholicism.
Okay, so Peter did not found Catholicism, and this is something you should know.
I got bad
Okay,
news for you.
Well, no, hold on. So what you're misunderstanding, okay, so when Catholicism came about, it transformed. That's like saying the Democratic Party today is the same party it was 100 years ago, when we know it wasn't. It does take a transformation through the eras. So when the Bible was actually constructed, and I forget the actual Roman leader that took upon this, he actually took that was after Peter's death. So the church that Peter started, right? I don't believe it's the same church of Catholicism today. I don't think that's the same church.
What
per
was
se.
Peter the Pope of?
They consider him the Pope, but he never proclaimed that. They consider him the first Pope. The Catholic Church will claim that, but I disagree with that.
But what was the church that he led? Where was it?
It was in Asia. So
It was Rome. He's the first bishop of Rome.
okay, first bishop of Rome. Okay.
Yeah. And sorry, what's the church that's in Rome? Like, what's the church that lays claim to Rome?
You talking about the
Ooh.
Vatican?
Yeah,
Talking about the Vatican?
I am. Unfortunately.
Okay, so you're misunderstanding a key point. So the church is the people. So the building can be overtaken by Satan. And the church, the body, the people can move elsewhere, start a whole different name religion, which I believe truly happened. Right? And you'll find in Revelations, Jesus speaks of the 7 churches, right? And the Philadelphia, and he talks about them, and he criticizes each one for their misgivings, and then he speaks.
No, wait,
highly of the
in
church.
Revelation?
I think it's Revelations. Maybe it's Thessalonians. I'm quoting off the top
You're
of my head.
saying Jesus is speaking in this?
Okay, no, Jesus doesn't speak Revelations. That's written by John. We know that. But I think he's quoted, or I might be mistaken, but no, I can't look it up because I'm on my phone. But there is where when Jesus speaks of the 7 churches, right? He criticizes 5 of them, right? And one of them, he warns that they're going to be completely dead. He warns that, or 2 of them one is definitely could be dead. I mean, many theologians today believe that, Catholicism, I mean, Greek Orthodox, I mean, it's very complicated when you go through that. So I can't sit here and quote everything that you're arguing right now without some context in front of me. I need some help in that.
Well, I mean, even what you're talking about, well, that's just from Revelation. It's not like Jesus speaking of it. And I don't know, I just think that, like, this verse, the Matthew 16:18 verse about John being the rock, Peter, yeah, Peter being the rock that he builds the church upon, such that sin will never overtake it. I mean, the chain of popes just goes directly back to Peter in Rome. I don't see a way out of this. It sounds like
because
Protestantism is, like, definitely false. Like, how do you determine what the true church is?
Well, the church has never been defeated.
How do you figure out which one's right? There are so many Protestants.
The Bible, the Word of God.
But for the first, like, 1,500 years, you couldn't read. So let's say you're totally illiterate in the year, like, 1000. How are you supposed to figure out what the true church is?
I think it was a huge problem. And I think the Catholics
Why would Jesus do it like this?
Well, I mean, personally, in my historical view, right, I think it was heavily to do with the Medici family, totally corrupted the church. And Paul warned about it, right? And, we knew it was coming, right? The church died first, then paganism came along, then corruption came into the church. I mean, the church is not infallible. Now, I'm speaking about the building, the Catholicism, the Catholics, or that organized religion. But Christ doesn't speak like that. Christ says the church is us, the people. So the true believers are the church. That's who he's coming for. I
Mhm.
think when, I believe in the rapture. When that day comes, he's going to take some from many faiths of Protestant and Catholics alike. I think some are misled, but God looks into people's hearts. So when you say church, that's why I say, be careful there, because I don't believe the Catholic Church today resembles Peter's church whatsoever.
But then what you said makes Jesus sound like an idiot. You're telling me Jesus came down, and what we're expected to do is find the true church by reading. And for the majority of the time since Jesus came down, the average person couldn't read. Like
Well,
90 over 90% of people would have been totally illiterate for the vast majority of history between Jesus and now. And the way that you're supposed to find the true church is by reading. Like that just can't be. That would make Jesus so stupid.
well, actually, they used to read to one another, and they used to,
Where?
well, you do
In the
realize
Catholic
that
Church is the
no,
answer.
the Catholic Church is somewhat different, right? Now, when in Jesus' day, right, the word of God came through mouth, right? Even scholars will look back at what they call verbal evidence as far as theology. So, in other words, they date Buddhism back to 1500 BC, right? Thereabouts, or maybe 1100. I'm not exactly sure, but that's all oral, right? They're just speaking it. They don't have any actual documents, no text that dates back to that. But the scholars will date it back to that date. I would argue against that, but they argue that. And so there is text back in those days, and they'd speak it. They spoke it to one another. But also, you got to keep in mind.
Where would they do that?
Where would they do that?
Isn't it
The
like
synagogues?
I don't know. Isn't it like kind of incredible that, as soon as people started reading, they all start forming like they're like schisms of Catholicism. And I mean, like,
I think,
isn't that like kind of a crazy coincidence that like right as people become literate, that's when the schisms start forming?
No, I don't think that's a crazy coincidence. I think it's Satan's plan. I mean, I can give you specific.
We shouldn't have become literate.
No, I'm not saying we shouldn't become literate. I'm saying that God promised us his word would remain, and it has. I find the Dead Sea Scrolls remarkable. I think even theists, or atheists, might find some remarkability.
What about it? It's literally just like a copy of the Old Testament. So
yeah,
what?
That is so consistent.
So what? If I find like an old copy of I don't know, like a Hindu book, and it's pretty similar to like a modern day version of the Hindu book, I don't think that that's evidence to think that Ganesh is real.
Well, I would agree. Yeah, because I don't even want to go down that road, because I don't really want to offend anybody. I'm not looking to offend anybody.
That's okay.
But there is no text from them. You know that. I mean, I don't know of any scholars that predate Jesus Christ texts other than, what is it, the Samaritans and the Phoenicians and Christianity or Judaism. Those are the only three that I know that predate Christianity.
Oh,
off the top of my head.
No, Hinduism is like way before Christianity.
No, it's not text. Not text.
But the religion itself. Well, and you don't care about text, right? You're fine. You just told me that you're fine accepting like word of mouth.
No, that's not what I meant. What I meant is that was, even though they couldn't read, they could still receive the word of God through good men, right? Other people could read, and that's how they would hear the word of God. That was my reference there. I reject the scholars' belief that Hinduism predates Christianity. Now, I acknowledge the fact that they argue that. So I'm only going on what I know of the scholars. So the scholars agree with you. I disagree with the scholars. I would say Christianity is far older than any of them. I say Judaism is the oldest, just because you have Phoenician, I believe, has the oldest text, right? And actually, Judaism is a part of Christianity. So go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you want, I have these apparently they actually do have texts,
Samaritan,
the
Phoenician, no?
Vedas in Hinduism, from which they claim to be divine revelation, and it's from 1500 BC. So it's
But it's
way
oral.
earlier than
And it's
Christianity.
oral. Yeah, it's oral.
No, written.
No. Are you talking about
Yes.
those leaves they talking about with the symbols on them? And it's very like very little of it. If that
This
is
is what
that
they
what you're
believe.
referring
This
to?
is for example, this one, the Rig Veda, is a collection of hymns.
So it's like pottery, right? Where they got symbols and that sort of thing, and they correlate that to Hinduism, but there's no actual like. It's not like Christianity actually has a book where it
No, they
outlines.
do a book. I could probably pull up the text for this one if you want. I
Okay.
mean, Rig Veda English
And it's
text.
scholarly accepted.
Yeah,
That would be
the
news to me.
scholarly consensus is that it's from like 1500 BC.
Okay, and it's actual text, like Okay, so I'd have to look into that. So I kind of doubt that. I question that. I question that. I don't
Apparently
think
it's
that's
apparently it's on Holy Book.
okay.
It's on
I'll look into it.
holybook.com or holy
Okay.
books, sorry, plural.com.
Okay, and
Uh,
it agrees with their current religion. It's consistent with their current beliefs.
I don't know enough about Hinduism, but I'd assume so. From what I was searching, it seems pretty foundational.
I think there's a contradiction in there somewhere.
Okay. I mean, there's like
I
tons
think
of
there's
contradictions
something-
in the Bible, so I don't think that's going to help you.
No. I mean, in other words, the text that you find that date back to pre-Christian is the same as what we see today, almost word for word. Now, there are some flaws in some errors in some of the text. They've seen some of that, but typically it's 90 some percent accurate to, what's written today.
If that was true of the Rig Veda, would you take that as evidence that Hinduism is true?
No, I think it's historical evidence.
Oh, wait. So it would be evidence.
Yeah, I would accept evidence. Absolutely. Now, I
don't know. I wouldn't think so. That might just
What?
be a difference in intuitions. I don't think that the Bible being consistent with the Dead Sea Scrolls, like the couple of books of the Bible that are consistent with the Dead Sea Scrolls, I don't think that that's evidence in favor of the Bible being true. I don't think that, if it turns out that the Rig Veda was like 100% identical to some earlier copy of it, I wouldn't think that that's evidence either.
I wouldn't. Okay, so when I say evidence, I could have. I don't think that's a conclusion, but yeah, it's evidence. I would argue it's evidence. I mean, it would lean me toward one direction or another. It wouldn't be a decisive. It wouldn't make a decision for me. But I think it's evidence.
Certainly, if it was totally different at that point, I might think that's like evidence against it. But I don't think that this is like particularly good evidence for it, because lots of fictional books can be self-consistent or just
Well, I
well
think-
preserved, right? Like, I don't know, Plato's dialogues have been preserved over the last 2,500 years, but the things that are happening there are fictional.
Right. I agree with that. But how did they find the Dead Sea Scrolls? Right. They weren't handed down like Plato's works through history. They were
Wouldn't
found
they like
thousands of years later.
they would? So a lot of Plato's works would have been like excavated as well. From
Well, I think that would hold a lot more weight. Absolutely. But we know Plato's are real. We know they're real because they've lasted the test of time, right? We have the actual books that he wrote, don't we?
yeah, well, I mean, we don't have like we don't have ones that he literally wrote himself, but yeah,
Are
we
you
have like
sure?
the copies of it. Yeah,
Are you sure? I mean,
yeah.
we don't have any ancient writings?
No, most writings, like even true of the Bible, I think like the earliest documents, or like a lot of the really early documents of like the Gospels are from I don't know. We could look up like earliest Gospel
150 AD,
fragments.
150 AD, 160 AD. Christianity, I think, is 150, 160 AD.
Yeah, it's like right around like 150 AD. It's like pretty old, right?
Right. But that's Christianity, right? It didn't even occur until 150 years before that. So the Gospels weren't even completed to be written until like 70
Yeah.
AD, right?
But we certainly don't
So-
have like the penned works of like one of the disciples or something.
But I mean, my point is Plato's works, they predate Christianity, right? They
Yeah.
have writings of his that predate Christianity, right?
Yep.
And they're the actual his physical writings, correct?
If by that you mean like Plato himself took pen and
Well,
paper and wrote that down, like they're Plato's words, is what they are.
I thought they actually, I mean, like the Library of Alexandria wasn't completely destroyed, right? Some of the documents actually survived. Don't we have ancient documents that are historical and non-biblical at all, or non-religious?
Maybe, I have no idea. I haven't looked into it.
I would,
But we
I think
for sure don't have any like Plato original written himself. In fact, he probably didn't write them himself. He probably had like a scribe do it or something.
I agree. I agree with that. Yeah, I think, I don't know, but I think we got off the topic. But the one thing I did want to address is when you say, okay, so keep in mind, the Protestants, many of them, they don't believe the Catholic Church is accurate, right?
But
So they're
Protestantism is nonsense, as we just
Why?
discovered, because the task that Jesus set forward for you was to find the true church by reading the Bible at a time period when you can't read. The only place that you could learn what the Bible says is by going to the Catholic Church.
No. You're misunderstanding. Jesus wasn't for the church. The church is the people. He was
He
never
founded
for
on Peter. Okay, it's literally just
so-
in the
but-
book.
But it's spiritual. Understand? It's the people. It's not a building. It's not a building. It's not a. I think if Christ came back, he wouldn't agree with any denomination per se. And you see that when he speaks of the seven churches, he'll say you're doing this right and you're doing this wrong, because we have our cultural beliefs, we have paganism, different things that got influenced into
What was
the
Peter
whole
in
web.
charge of? What did they put Peter in charge of?
Peter worked with James, Jesus's brother, with the Jews. So
What did he do?
Paul, I don't know the church that he took place of, but I think
Bishop of Rome. That's his role. He was the
Okay.
Bishop of Rome.
okay. That now Rome is where Judaism existed during that time.
Hmm.
Yeah. So Paul went about to the Gentiles, and he spread the gospel to the Gentiles. So Peter and James were the ones for founding the church within the Jews. Paul went about to the Gentiles. So Peter, I think, was number 2.
Oh,
right?
well, then Jesus is wrong when he says, sorry, let me find it again. And I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church.
Right.
Peter is the rock that he builds the church on.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't
So
think he
is
was.
the central figure.
No,
I
I
will.
don't-
Okay,
I
wait.
don't-
Sorry. Let me even read the full verse. And I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom and heaven, and whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. He has the keys, my guy. He's in charge.
No. Paul
You
wrote
disagree with
most of the New
Jesus.
Testament. Paul wrote most of the New Testament.
You disagree
If
with
any
Jesus,
apostle,
then.
well, no, Peter. I agree. Peter was the rock on the church, but if it's my
Who
understanding now,
has the keys to the kingdom?
what's that?
Who has the keys to the kingdom?
I'm not exactly sure what they mean by that. I'd have to read that
Means he's
entire
in
book and that
charge.
verse. No, I don't think I don't think Jesus seen it that way. He went to Paul outside of his apostles to take the word of God to the Gentiles. Paul was probably the most significant person after Christ,
Hmm.
in my understanding.
Did Paul get the
He-
keys to the kingdom?
What's that?
Did Paul get the keys to the kingdom? Because I'm looking at this verse in Matthew, and it says that Peter has the keys to the kingdom.
Well, I don't doubt that Peter wasn't an apostle or a great man or a saint. I'm
It
not
says a bit
doubting that.
more than that. It says, "You are
Okay.
the rock I will build my church on."
And I don't doubt that. I'm not exactly sure what the whole meaning in that is. I'd have to do more studying on that. But what I'm saying is I would say Paul is a much more significant figure in Christianity, probably the most significant and probably the most controversial, right? Because he had to preach to the Gentiles, which had pagan gods. So he had to address much more controversial topics, where Peter and James stayed back with the Jews.
Nice,
Right.
yeah. you
So
know, just like, I don't know, like wiping our asses with like the words of Jesus, it seems, you know, let's all follow Paul.
no, you got to follow Jesus, right? These
And
are
he
all
says that
the
you have to
Bible.
follow Peter, but you're telling me Paul. Paul's the
No, you
man.
don't follow either one of them. You follow Jesus Christ, but he chose these people to bring the word of God, right? So the Bible is God speaking. That's his breath. It's not man. It's not written by man. It's inspired by God through man's hand. Yes, but those are words from God specifically.
Mhm.
So me as a
Do
Christian,
we
I'm a
have any
Bible believing Christian.
endorsements of Paul? Is there some
Yes.
endorsement from Jesus of Paul? Can I get the verse where Jesus says, you know, there's going to be a dude who has like a vision of me. You should listen to him.
Absolutely. An angel came to him. Remember the donkey?
Wait. Can I just get the
He went
verse
to
where
his man
Jesus
up.
says that you should listen to Paul?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, there's plenty of them.
Please,
I
yeah.
don't know one off the top of my head. I'd have to reference it.
In fact,
But,
Jesus never mentions Paul. That doesn't happen.
Yes, it does.
No, he
Jesus
doesn't.
came. Yes, an angel came. Paul was chosen by Christ. Paul was chosen.
Paul
by
never
Christ.
met
Jesus
Jesus.
Christ. No, he didn't. Not in the flesh. No.
Yeah,
He did not.
exactly.
You're
Right. So do you have anything from like the Gospels of Jesus in the flesh saying, let's
Yeah,
listen to
Google it
Paul?
for me. Paul was chosen by Christ. Google that.
Okay, let's do, is Paul mentioned in the 4 Gospels? Doop. No.
Peter
Paul
apologizes
is
to-
not mentioned in the 4 Gospels.
Okay, so well, hold on. You know, you're the one with the computer, so be fair here. Okay, so Peter actually apologized to Paul because they had a disagreement on things, and Peter later in life said he was wrong and Paul was right.
Which
So-
book is this? What's the dispute? Is this the circumcision dispute?
I think it was the circumcision and kosher foods. I think that were the main 2 disagreements because back in those days, the pagans would celebrate their gods and they'd put food on altars and they'd have orgies and all this crazy stuff. And Paul would say, you can eat that food. But what the reality was in that historical time was that a lot of that food was what was sold in the market. So it's not like they were actively involved in those orgies. They were just buying the food that came from
Yeah.
those altars.
So I do think it's like quite notable that like a lot of Christians turn into like followers of Paul. Like, you know, Jesus says the law doesn't change, and then Paul is like the law is changing, and everyone's like, oh, I guess the law's changed.
No. Paul is in. So legalism is something that Jesus Christ himself is the only time he becomes angry, he tears up the synagogue over legalism. Legalism crucified Christ. So Paul is staying consistent with Christ. James and
Wait, how about
Peter,
okay, do not
James
think
and-
that I have, let me just read Matthew to you. This is Matthew 5:17. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have come not to abolish, but to fulfill. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth pass away, not one letter, not one stroke of a letter will pass from the law until all is accomplished. So
Right.
the law is in effect until heaven and earth pass away.
Well, yeah, but what's he say
And
about
the law includes circumcision. So then circumcision
Okay.
is in effect until heaven and earth pass away.
right? So, but what does he say about the oxen stuck
So
in the
then
mud?
Paul is wrong.
No, you're misunderstanding. So, in other words, there's nuances in law.
Okay, let's
Right.
just type this out so we can get on the we can all get on board the tracking train. So it's
Okay.
like this.
Okay.
Not let's just do the law does not pass away
Right.
until heaven and earth pass away.
Mhm.
Meaning like the law is still in effect
Right.
until heaven and earth pass away. The law includes circumcision. So circumcision is still in effect until heaven and earth pass away.
I don't know about that. No.
Oh,
Do you know why?
you agree that Socrates is a man. You agree all men are mortal, but you don't know if you agree that Socrates is mortal.
Well, you have to give me an opportunity to explain.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jesus Christ was the only atonement for sin. The law didn't change. Jesus's death and resurrection fulfilled the law. The law was the same, but there was no path.
Mhm.
There was no path to atonement for sin.
Yeah.
right? So the kosher foods, all those things are during a time when there's no atonement for sin. You have no way to be forgiven. Zero.
Yep.
Not a single person could go to heaven prior to Jesus Christ.
Yep. Sure. So then
Okay.
the law is still in effect.
No, it's been fulfilled. Now circumcision is no longer needed.
Okay, wait. So then I'll just read it again. For
The
truly I
kosher
tell you, until
foods.
heaven and earth pass away, not one letter, not one stroke of a letter will pass from the law until all is accomplished. Do you think the law has passed already?
No. Okay, so if I say pre-1986, this is the law. After 1986, this is the law.
Have heaven and
Right.
earth passed away?
No, heaven and earth haven't passed away.
Well,
but the
Jesus says, for
fulfillment,
truly I tell you, until heaven and earth pass away, not one letter, not one stroke of a letter will pass from the law until all is accomplished. So he's saying until heaven and earth pass away, it's in effect.
no, I'm saying that Jesus Christ's death was fulfillment of the law. So therefore, the law, right? Those laws that predate him, like for example, prior, right? Prior, you had no access to heaven. So is that a changing of the law? No, it's not changing of the law. It was not, it was fulfillment of the law. So the fulfillment of the law, in fact, changed the law per se, lack of a better term. So there's an era
let's
here.
let's just get clear about this. So here's the verse. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth pass away, not one letter, not one stroke of a letter will pass from the law until all is accomplished. So just as a quick piece of like reading comprehension, when will one letter or one stroke of a letter pass away? When can that happen?
Well, you see, you're missing
When
something
can that
about.
happen?
Okay, so you're trying to pin me down on a sentence.
It's Jesus'
When-
words. You're a Paul follower.
Okay, I'm not a Paul follower.
You're clearly
Right.
you're saying disregard Jesus' words.
No,
Listen to
I don't
Paul.
disregard. No, I don't say that at all. You're putting words in my mouth. I never said that. You're having an interpretation of what's written based on your human logic, not understanding there's a spiritual realm here. There's a theological terms here. So you can't just take a verse out of a Bible. Just like you say, you don't work on the Sabbath. But Jesus told you, if your oxen is drowning in the mud, go get him. So what did Jesus not follow the law? When they stoned the woman to death, right? When they said he without sin cast the first stone. But the law said they had to be stoned to death.
Yeah.
So is Jesus wrong?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a contradiction. Yeah. That's like
Well, that's
another
how
great
you-
disproof of the Bible. Yeah.
Well, right. That's how you from a human standpoint, right? From a logical standpoint, you're going to see it as that way. Like we write law in Greek or in Latin here in America, right? And we have to spell it out exactly. And if it's not spelled out exactly, then that's the way it is. But it doesn't work that way in the spiritual realm. You have to consider the nuances. You have to consider all terms. So for example, thou shalt not murder. It says thou shalt not kill in the King James Version Bible, but we know that's not the case. It's thou shalt not murder, right? So there are some nuances that you have to take in relation when you read the entire book. It'll come to light.
If I read the entire book, will I get an answer to the question, when will one letter or one stroke of a letter pass away?
I guarantee you, if you read the whole Bible,
I just want an answer to the question.
if you read the Bible cover to cover, I'll bet you'd become Christian.
I've already read the Bible cover to cover, and I didn't become Christian.
Really?
And I did find the answer to this question, though. When will one letter or one stroke of a letter pass away? It's in this verse right here.
What's that?
The answer is that until heaven and earth pass away.
Okay, but do you not understand what Jesus was saying when he said, he without sin cast the first stone? Does that make sense to you? Does that make any sense to you? Or
I
did
think
he
it's a
break the law?
contradiction.
Okay.
I don't think that you can
Well-
consistently affirm both of those. It just seems like a flat contradiction. Saying everyone needs to be at home by 8 p.m. and also, everybody's more than welcome to be out of their home at like 8 p.m. I don't know. It just seems like a contradiction.
Well, I mean, do you have you ever read a law book?
I've never
sure you
read a
have.
law book. No,
Not even portions of law. I'm sure you've read portions
I've
of law,
probably
right?
read like passages of law.
Contracts. You've read contracts, right?
Yeah,
Or something, right?
Yeah.
Legal documents. Okay. They're very complicated, are they not?
they are.
Extremely complicated.
They're extremely
are.
complicated.
I 100% agree. I'm not. I wouldn't consider myself dumb, not a genius or anything, but I struggle to understand them. And the reason why is exactly what you're saying, right?
Mm.
Because they have to be so definitive, so there's no room for error.
Mm.
Yet it continually happens, does it not?
Listen,
Is it-
Ronald,
there's
this was
always a
very
loophole.
persuasive. You know, I too am a worshiper of Paul now. All hail Paul. Gosh, you know, I worship at Paul's feet. Let's read some supers. Ali Shen, thanks so much for the super chat. TikTok single-handedly destroying fine tuning. True. Neck 2 at night. Thanks so much for the super chat. Satan loves you more than Jesus. It certainly seems that way sometimes. Vincent DeVicis, thank you so much. Appreciate that. God isn't real. You have any proof? Yeah, I mean, either his act of creation is eternal or it's not eternal. If it begins to exist, then that means that he changes, so then he would be in time. And if it is eternal, then that just means that God never actually created. So either way, God doesn't create. Response to the Kalam, I think that literally that exact line of question, you just ask them, you know, does God's act of creation begin to exist? The only answer, so either it does begin to exist, in which case God is in time. So either time is finite or infinite. If it's infinite, then you have the infinite regress. If it's finite, then God began to exist by Craig's definition. So that's an untenable position. But if it's eternal, well, then that means that there's an infinite regress. So either way, there's an infinite regress. The only position that they could take is that God is timeless without creation, but in time after creation. But then that runs into the problem of God being irrational. God is rationally motivated to create at the moment that he creates, but he's not rationally motivated prior to that. Or I'm sorry, sans creation. What explains the fact that he exists sans creation is that he hasn't chosen to create. And, you know, that's untenable because he has the exact same reasons. So if he's rationally motivated to create when he's creating, then he must be rationally motivated to create without creation. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still working on that second one. It probably a bit of a jumble, but I don't know. It's like very true. I don't think there's a way out of it. Aloe Emporium, thanks so much for the super chat. Did you see the Twitter discourse this weekend where theists claim that atheists have no morality stopping them from having relations with roadkill that doesn't exist or that doesn't come from Christian morals? Indeed, I did actually. That's so funny. I saw that exact tweet. Fucking based. I do think it's so funny when they're like, oh, well, how do you determine that it's wrong to fuck your cousin? And then you say, hey, Christian / Muslim / Jewish person, how do you determine that? Right? It doesn't say that in the Bible. You'll find 0 prohibitions of cousin fucking in the Bible. Grimlock, thanks so much for the super chat. Hydration donation. Excuse me. Okay. I'm the Darkness 420. Thanks so much for the super chat. I appreciate you. Big W for I'm the Darkness 420. Pat in the chat. Thanks so much for the super chat. Non-Christians. Does Jesus love me unconditionally? Christian, absolutely. Terms and conditions apply. Oh, yeah. Okay, sorry. It took me a sec. I had to process it. Yeah. They certainly do apply. The Elements of Spice, thanks so much for the super chat. Welcome as a cool Corey. Happy to have you here. Grimmy, thanks so much for the super chat. I find most living things have dispositional goals such as self-preservation. That's true. Although it's a question of like what are you required to do? brute contingencies. I'm a necessitarian. I think it's like super ultra reasonable to hold the PSR. And PSR just implies necessitarianism, unfortunately. Fio Games, thanks so much for the super chat. Brandon seems to miss that it's not about biology, but what it means to be an agent generally. Brandon should look into constitutivism. Yeah, that's my understanding. Although I don't know how like a Kantian, well, I do know how a Kantian would handle it if you're a vampire. I think the Kantian would say that you have to die, that you just have to like let yourself die. I think Gaworth is probably committed to that too. It's certainly an interesting puzzle. Grimmy, thanks so much for the super chat. Odd question. Can you describe of authority outside of a claim of an agent, since anything that is natural would just be a fundamental function and does not need an authority? It's so interesting that you asked that. We have there's our good friend wrote a book on this exact topic. I'll have to direct you towards The Problem of Political Authority by Michael Huemer. Michael Huemer wrote a book about this exact topic. He's an ANCAP because he thinks that the concept of political authority is totally incomprehensible, but all of the arguments about authority would also equally apply to God. That's kind of a huge problem with authority, is that in order to be bound to an authority, you would need to agree to follow the authority. If you don't give a fuck rat's ass about the authority, it's over. It's Jover. It's cooked. It's clipped. It's shipped even. Skeptics and Scoundrels, thanks so much for the super chat. Irrational believer, irrational God. One really is made in the image of the other. True. Get Stanfield, thanks so much for the super chat. Hey Ian, I love what you do. You should talk to Lance Bush when it comes to meta ethics and ethics in general, IMO. Love your work. Yeah, I watched his reply video to me. I think I'm gonna keep on dodging him. I'm gonna keep on ducking this guy. Fuck no. That's a solid fuck no from me. Well, okay, there is like a more serious thing that I'll say, which is that I think that it sounds like the impasse that we're gonna reach is that I'm gonna say that these people are being irrational because there's a contradiction on their worldview, and he's gonna say, nope. Or he's gonna say like, well, why do they need to care about that? And then, you know, I don't know, if you don't care about the fact that you're wrong, I don't know. I'm not really sure where to go from there. Atheist in a foxhole, thanks so much for the super chat. Having never heard of this text 30 seconds ago, there are contradictions. Based. Fucking based. Ow, I have a foot cramp. Motherfuck. Okay, I'll have to get through the rest of the super chats. Hold up. Let me pull up the cognitive dissonance to English translator. I'd have to do more studying. I need to figure this out to make this not straightforwardly refute the thing I said. Fucking true. 2.35 X caught up with real time. I can't do these slow talking callers. Bye-bye for now. That's fair enough, I think. Skeptics and Scoundrels, thanks so much for the super chat. Paul says Jesus mentioned Paul. Totally legit. Yeah. That's, well, if Paul says that Jesus mentioned him, then it must be true. Helping MAGA deconstruct, thanks so much for the super chat. Words don't mean words, Ian. You know this. That's my bad. My bad, G. I'll stop trying to think about it. Dr. Fudge, thanks so much for the super chat. Yeah, human logic sucks. We should use our cat logic instead. I'm always like baffled by this. Like, what the fuck do you want me to do, right? Like, should I be using my whale words? Kirby, thanks so much for the super chat. Became vegetarian from your debates, Ohio 56 days. Kirby, that is so cool. I'm really, really glad about that. That's like seriously really cool. I don't know. I'm heartened. I'm heart-warmed. My heart is warmed by that fact. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart in all possible worlds. necessarily transcendentally. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Anyway, if you want to learn about philosophy, if you want to learn about, I don't know, ethics, virtue ethics specifically, we're doing a reading group. It's Rosalind Hursthouse's On Virtue Ethics. We're reading the chapter about Kant and Aristotle. I think it's about moral motivation or like right motivation. That's our next chapter. It's going to be great. It's in the Discord. It's discord.gg/allegedly Ian. The Discord has lots of great things. You have, you know, skies of green, red roses too. Lots of cool friends to come and meet. They have bingo. It's discord.gg/allegedly Ian. I hope to see you there. Moroccan, thanks so much for the super chat. I hate philosophical arguments for God, so I appreciate you standing in the breach against ridiculous Philbro claims. Yeah, a lot of these arguments aren't taken particularly seriously by like real deal philosophers. A lot of this stuff is like really silly. And I don't know, I mean, there's just tons of literature about why it's really silly. Yolanda, thank you so much for the $6.66 hydration donation. I appreciate that, Yolanda. Wow. Andrew, if you think the 5 ways are good, you should raise your standards. They're like obviously like gibberish, but you should come next time and we can talk about it. Otherwise, I have to go. I'm sure Justin's live. Maybe he's not. Nope. I don't know. Go watch my newest YouTube video. See you guys later.